For all the playoff teams out there, their lives are great. They're going to the divisional round, perhaps. For us, well, it's mock draft season. So we've got a very unique set of 2-round New York Jets mock drafts to come with 4 picks inside the top 44. We're going to do it all with multiple special guests. We have a very special draft episode today, Mock Draft Monday, Boy Green Daily. It starts now. Let's go.
I'm going to lose my gosh darn bananas. Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks!
Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. Let's go!
Put your seatbelts on. Get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
What's up, everybody? I'm Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your podcasts. As you guys are heading on in, make sure you guys like the video and hit subscribe. Spread the gospel of all things Boy Green Daily every Monday, from last Monday all the way through past the draft, where we'll do report cards and everything else grading the draft. We're going to be here for the next couple of months. I'm here every day, but we're going to be here specifically on these Monday episodes, dedicating time to the 2026 NFL Draft, mock drafts, draft scenarios, draft experts joining us. And we've got multiple draft experts, perhaps professors, to join us here on the program to teach us a lesson or two. So let's welcome in the cast of crew and characters for this episode of Boy Green Daily. Let's start off with the primo, the face that runs the place, the head of the table, the tribal chief of draftprofessors.com. It's Jim gracing us with his presence. Jim?
Hey, Paul, it's good to see you, and that was a heck of an intro. Thank you very much.
I love your orange, so just in case, if we were driving in the middle of the night, I couldn't hit you, and if I did, it was on purpose. So, Jim, I appreciate you joining us here on the program, and you're not the only draft professor here present to teach us a thing or two about the draft. It's time to bring some different AFC East blood into the room. I don't need any of this Buffalo Bills nonsense. What I need is some Jets love, and thankfully it comes in droves. We have Anthony Russo here on the program, one of the many draft professors, experts from your website of choice. Anthony, good morning.
Good morning, Paul. Yes, happy to represent the Jets with you. I got my Joe Namath jersey on.
Ooh, let me see.
Because
nice.
Yeah, I got my here you go, number 12.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep, look at
that's
that.
Nice. That's
yeah, unfortunately, I have several jerseys, but none of them are on the current roster. So we may have to see who the Jets draft this year, and maybe I'll get a new jersey to support our new quarterback potentially.
Oh, there you go. Influencing jersey decisions for Jet fans. I didn't know that was what the goal of today's show was. So beautiful. And quite frankly, I need it. Sauce Gardner, gone. Quentin Williams, gone. So, yeah, I got to look at my closet to see who the hell is left. I didn't know it was like some sort of an elimination island. That when I bought these jerseys, it was only a matter of time before they just, ghosted and left the team. And then I was left with these just empty souls in my closet. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate that, Anthony. So the comment section is lighting up. You guys, by the way, throughout today's program, as we're doing these mock draft scenarios, and I'll pass it over to Jim to explain exactly what the hell we're going to be doing here today. But if you guys have draft questions or draft prospects or anything of that nature you want to ask our draft professors here on the program, super chat those in, and we'll try to interrupt as gracefully as possible all of your questions, comments, and everything in between. So, Jim, first off, let's introduce both of you. Jim, will start with you in the beautiful bright orange Under Armour long sleeve there. Jim, who the hell are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Jim. Shout out to anybody from Fairport, New York. I'm originally from Western New York. I live in Ohio now. About 4 years ago, we started Draft Professors. It started as an online simulator, and now it is a podcast network of about 110 people.
Wow,
So,
unbelievable. And Anthony is one of those 110 people, but not just some random draft professor. This is a guy that's been grinding at the university. So, Anthony, give us some juicy deets. And of course, I see social media handles for Jim. That's for the draft professor's Twitter handle. We also have it tagged live on Twitter as well to your personal Twitter. But Anthony, also tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you've got great taste as a Jets fan. That much is clear, or you're a glutton for punishment, or both. So, Anthony, tell us a little bit about what you bring to the table, please.
Yeah, I think it's more of that latter option, to be honest. But no, I'm a lifelong Jets fan, and I've been a draft guy most of my adult post-college life, at least. And I've been with Draft Professor since 2 Novembers ago, so November of 24. Around that time is when I started podcasting with Jim and all the other draft professors, and yeah, man, nowhere else are you going to find more detailed and specific and just draft content galore than at Draft Professor.
So, Anthony, when did you say you started with Draft Professors? How long ago was that?
November of 24, so a little over a year now.
Okay, yeah, that almost sounds that's close to an associate's degree there at Draft Professor.
Yes, yeah, I'm definitely going to get my associates.
Very nice.
Anthony
I don't
has a PhD. Let me tell you, he has a PhD already.
Okay,
yeah, but
yeah.
the GPA is a little above 2, though, so we're making it through, though. C's
Grades
getting
don't
degrees.
matter.
Yeah, that's true. So, Jim, now I want to pass the keys over to you because normally in past years, as we get into this offseason process for Jet fans, normally very early, when we're doing this process, we do a very basic mock draft. And what I mean by that is a PFF mock draft machine. It's a 2-round mock draft. We pick at this pick. We pick at this pick. Mock draft similar. Beep, boop, bop. We have one result. Here it is. Here's who we picked at 2. Here's who we picked at 16. Here's who we picked at 33. Here's who we picked at 44. And then obviously we talk through it as we're going through the process with the people as the options are out there on the table. We're going to do that generic idea, but we're going to be doing it a lot differently. And that's one of the features that you folks over at Draft Professor provide. So please, if you could explain your detailed process that we're going to be going through today.
Yeah, so you can do all of what you described at Draft Professor. You want to do a 2-round draft, come in, get out, do your 2 rounds. Yeah, go right ahead, right? It works. But at the same time, we like talking about the draft, so why stop at one mock draft? So we're going to do something called the second round challenge, which means that Anthony and I and Paul are going to take you through 10 2-round Jet drafts. We will not be allowed to duplicate any of the picks in round 2. And Draft Professor has a way of learning who you like and sniping them from you. So it's going to force you to mock draft harder. So if you want to do an easy mock draft, just do 1. But if you want to make it hard, do 10. And whatever you do at Draft Professor, we have a way to make the mock drafting harder. And Anthony and I and you will be going through this, and we'll explain how it's going to get a little bit harder. I'll point some of that out as Anthony and you talk through the Jets, and I'll talk through the simulator. It's a good time. We're also going to be here for not a short time, right? So this is probably going to take us, this is going to be a 30 or 45-minute exercise. So buckle up, get your coffee, and good morning to Jet Up. And I'm ready to go whenever everybody else is.
All right, beautiful. We'll be presenting that on the screen in just a second. And folks, what I think this is a good process because Jim and Anthony, they have not just dove into the draft process 2 weeks ago, as some of us have, even though some Jet fans even further than that, before that. But what this is going to be for all the fans of the audience, for the casual college football fans, is this going to be an opportunity for you guys to learn about a ton of prospects, because with 4 picks inside the top 44, that's a ton of ammo to do a lot of different stuff with a lot of high-quality prospects, and we will get into that immediately. So, booyah! Jim is at the controls. I'm just a monkey operating a spotlight over here. So, Jim, let's get this party started here, baby.
Sure. Got the Jets picked. We're doing this thing right here called the second round Fanatic Challenge. And we're going to go ahead and start this up. So this is 10 2-round mocks. Mm-hmm. And the second round is going to be unique every single time. So, Anthony, Jets are on the clock. Mendoza went at 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Is there any suspense? I think. Look, and obviously the question is whether he'll come out or not. We don't have that decision yet. There's signs pointing towards he goes back to school or not.
Yeah,
But
let's talk about that real quick, Anthony, because I
yeah,
think that's what a fans are on the edge of their seats about. So there was 2 deadline possibilities, but it all depended on what the hell happened to that Peach Bowl, and well, things happened in that Peach Bowl. So Oregon's out. So now that deadline is coming up here in 2 days from now. We're broadcasting live here on January 12th. That deadline is on the 14th. So if Dante waits all the way to the deadline, we could find out on the 14th. But we were talking before this show, and you guys both indicated that there may be some very strong indicators that Dante Moore is going back to school. Can you guys explain that to the people as we're getting into this? Because a lot of Jet fans are on the edge of their seat, because I think it's good news no matter if the Jets like Dante Moore or not, if he enters the draft, because of course they could just take him second overall. You were talking about the suspense, and the Jets don't have a quarterback, so we'd like to get one of those, please. So that would make a lot of sense. Or trading said pick. If the Cardinals love him, if the Browns love him, the Jets don't. Okay, we'll take a bounty of picks, and you guys can move up and select Dante. If he's not there, that pick becomes a lot less valuable. So first off, both of you guys, please explain the signs that you believe are out there that seem to suggest, it's unofficial, but seem to suggest that Dante Moore is returning to Oregon. Please.
So we were talking about this a little bit backstage, and last night while Paul, Anthony, and I were talking a little bit, Mateo Ugalele and Amari Washington, who are Oregon defensive players, announced they were returning to school. Both of them were projected to go in the top 50. So if they're going back to school, that would imply Oregon's probably looking for another run at the national championship, and no portal quarterback has committed to Oregon as well. But Anthony, what else do you want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, it does feel very much like Oregon is planning on sort of just reloading and making one last run at this, sort of similar to what Ohio State did the year that they, the year Michigan won the national title. Ohio State brought back a lot of their, experienced, better players, and sort of just made one last hurrah, and obviously it worked out for them. But you even think back to, Iapani Lalulu, the center for Oregon. He's going back to school. There's a bunch of players that Oregon is bringing back to hopefully do this. So I also think, too, based on both just my own sort of, educated guessing and also what I had heard from other reporters and things like that, I think Dante Moore came into the season planning on being at Oregon for multiple years. I don't think it was, become the starter at Oregon, have a hell of a year, and immediately declare. I think he wanted to have multiple years, learning the offense and being the guy and having a lot of success. But things change. He obviously played very well. His offensive coordinator just left to now go be the head coach at Kentucky, Will Stein. Oregon's also losing its defensive coordinator. So, there's pros and cons to leaving or staying. I would probably be in the camp of, for his overall development as a quarterback, it's probably best if he does go back, especially knowing that they're going to have a good roster. But I do agree with you, Paul. I think him declaring is a plus for the Jets, regardless of whether they take him or if he goes one or if the Jets decide to skip him, whatever. I think it's a win-win situation if Dante Moore is in this draft for the Jets.
All right, so let me ask you guys this. You guys said you think there's a lean. So if you had to put a percentage on a pie, I'm a dumb animal here, so I need it explained as simply as possible here. What are the chances that you think Dante Moore returns to school? You're like, oh, it's a 75% chance happening. Oh, it's a 100% chance happening. It's 80, it's 60, it's 50, it's 40, whatever percentage you want. We'll start off with you, Anthony, Jets boy. Okay. What are the percentage chance that Dante Moore returns to school in your opinion?
I right now,
yes,
I would say 60-40 he stays. I think it's very split for him, okay. But I would.
So you're saying there's a chance that he enters the draft and he wants to be $50 million richer. So okay.
Yeah,
all right. Jim.
Yeah. So Paul, I think your point about being richer, right? So if Dante Moore goes back to school, he's going to make a couple million, maybe 4 million NIL.
Sure.
Cam Ward's contract, I believe, was 4 years, 40 million.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fully guaranteed.
100%.
Right. So there is a decision because there's no guarantee next year he goes this high. Right. We've been talking about, like, there's other quarterbacks in the draft, like Carson Beck. We've been talking about him for 3 years. 3 years ago, we would have said round 1. Now we're saying Carson Beck is day 3. Right. Drew Alar. Last year at this time, we're talking about him going number 2 overall in the draft. This year, we're talking about him day 3. So I'm with Anthony. I'll say 60-40.
Okay.
But neither decision is simple, going back or declaring. Right. But if you're looking at your bank account, it's better to declare. According to me, the bank account, it's better to declare, but you don't always make decisions based upon the bank account.
Absolutely not. So, okay. So going back to Anthony here at a mock draft, and every once in a while, I'll randomly interrogate you guys and throw you up against a wall as we're going through this process. But, it seems like Dante Moore's the guy here, Anthony, at 2 overall in our current simulation of him being available.
Yeah, I would say so. Again, assuming he's in the class, the Jets obviously need a quarterback. It's obviously their biggest need. I am not a fan of the free agent / trade options out there. I think Dante Moore's a pretty easy pick to make.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Anthony, you're on the clock at 16. The players that just went after your pick include Jeremiah Love, Ruben Bain, Spencer Fano, Ty Simpson, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, Francis Maui Noah, Sonny Styles, Mansour Delane, Peter Woods, David Bailey.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've always preached, and this is with any team, is if you either are drafting a young quarterback or are going to be building around a young quarterback that you already have, like the Titans, or the Giants, or that kind of team, I believe in stockpiling weapons and or protection for that young quarterback to be put in the best possible situation to succeed. Now, thankfully, for the first time in what feels like forever, the Jets' offensive line is actually not the problem with this team. Right. It's pretty much everywhere else is the problem. So we can actually look past offensive line, and here we're looking at 3 really good pass catchers: the tight end Kenyon Sadiq, wide receiver Mekhi Lemon at a USC, and Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington. All 3, in my humble opinion, perfectly great picks to make here at 16. I think of the 3 players here, I think the best player is Mekhi Lemon. So for this first one, we will take Mekhi Lemon and get that. I think him and Garrett Wilson is a dynamic wide receiver 1-2 punch for a young offense to build around.
Anthony, can you give us a little bit more on Lemon? Because, as a Jets fan, you're going to know a lot of these themes that I bring up. We have been desperately searching for a Robin to Garrett Wilson's Batman since basically he was drafted. And they've attempted it. And every once in a while, they found something interesting. Devontae Adams. In my head, I thought it would work. I'm like, oh, wow, Devontae could be the second man to Garrett. But he wanted to be Batman too. And then that turned into a whole superhero movie that perhaps Hollywood could have done something with. But for the most part, it's been terrible. They haven't been able to find a Robin that can be his Batman. How does Mekhi Lemon, and talk about any of the specs you have, height, weight, school, any details you can share about his history of why you believe that he could be that Robin we've been long searching for to be to Garrett Wilson's Batman?
Yeah, I could just simply say first, if you think JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is a good football player, which I think I do, yes, and many people do, you will probably like a lot of what Mekhi Lemon does because it's a sort of very similar kind of play style. He's not going to wow you physically. He's 5'11", 195. Nothing to write home about. He's not going to be this 4'2", burner, deep threat kind of guy. And there's a few of those in this draft that have that amazing speed. That's not Mekhi Lemon's game. What Mekhi Lemon does, though, is quite simply catches any football that gets within his range to be caught. He is able to, for a guy who is 5'11", 195, he is tough and physical enough to make very impressive contested catches against even corners that are bigger than him. If you watch USC, he makes several impressive just one-on-one touchdown grabs. Throw the ball up and let him make a play, and he does it. He also has the ability when the ball is in his hands to, for someone who isn't that electric speed guy, he has that change of direction. He has that running ability as a receiver that allows him to get that extra yards and fight for extra yards. Again, his hands are just so solid. Does a good job at getting open, and he is a reliable. I think he could be a wide receiver one for a football team. In this scenario, obviously Garrett Wilson is that guy. But again, like you talked about, like having the Batman and Robin, I 100% think that Wilson and Lemon could provide that. And for a quarterback in this scenario like Dante Moore, that would be huge to have.
Okay, a random super chat has entered the octagon. This will happen every once in a while. We'll just go in an obtuse direction because in this specific mock draft scenario we're talking about, the Jets already got their quarterback, Dante Moore. Hallelujah, blessed be he. But in this scenario, Trackhawks ATO is sending in a super chat.
Wow.
Question from Trackhawks ATO. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Get Carson Beck. How about them Canes? Mr. Clutch don't care what haters say. That dude balls and wins. All right, Anthony, I see you're hidden behind the super chat there. I don't know if you did that on purpose because you don't want to answer this question about Carson Beck or what, but I'll ask you. Carson Beck. I've heard, we have the crazy Georgia journey and now Miami, and now they're going to play in the national championship game. He's an interesting cat. And Jim was talking about earlier, right? The quarterback decisions of going in, coming out, where you could go and things of that nature. How do you guys both feel about Carson Beck, the Miami Hurricane quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me in the summer of 2024, I would have told you Carson Beck was a first-round talent. Unfortunately, things have changed, as Jim talked about. You can go back to school, and it doesn't always work out for you. His time at Georgia was full of inconsistency, problems dealing with pressure, and just making some very inaccurate throws in what felt like the worst of times. The transfer to Miami obviously has helped him. Obviously, he's been winning games in the playoff and now is heading to a national championship. So already, finding more success than he did at a school like Georgia. I just think, he's got that size that you want, the prototypical size of an NFL quarterback, and he's got a solid arm, can make the NFL throws. I just still think that inconsistency is there. I do think he's helped out by a very good supporting cast. I mean, Malachi Toney has sort of been lighting the world on fire as Miami's freshman star wide receiver. They've got other playmakers like C.J. Daniels, another wide receiver, the running back Mark Fletcher. So I think he does get that boost from a very good supporting cast on offense. You'll still see him miss some throws. You'll still see him make some very questionable decisions at times. To me, somebody that I would say is not a first round talent at this point. If you wanted to take him, the Jets unfortunately don't have a third round pick, but in that sort of mid to late third round area is probably where I'd start looking at him. If the Jets don't take a quarterback early and they want to take him early day 3, that could be an option.
Interesting. Jim, anything to add on that?
So most of the people that talk about Carson Beck say he's going to be in the NFL for a long time. He's going to be in the NFL for 8 to 15 years, but he's going to be a career backup.
I see.
Right? He is a game manager, and that's what you want as your backup quarterback. Beck is not going to be an NFL quarterback that wins you a game, But if you want to draft like Andy Dalton, like Anthony, what do you think? Like Anthony Dalton, Carson Beck, do you think they're similar?
Yeah, I mean there's parallels there certainly in terms of ceiling and what you could expect out of them. Yeah, I think Carson Beck has the ability to lose you games, but I think when he's playing well, he can get a good team to victory. So if the Jets have the roster to win games and just need somebody to sort of keep the ship afloat, so to speak, yeah, I think Carson Beck is your guy. But if you're looking for that franchise quarterback, game changer kind of player, I think that ship has sailed.
By the way, thank you for the super chat, Trackhawks ATL. We have another Anthony-specific super chat coming in here. So, Anthony, of course, no matter what quarterback you draft, that's one thing. But you need the right infrastructure, clearly. Your buddy Jake Asman in here, he says, we have quarterback mastermind Charles Eugene M. London, who is our current quarterbacks coach, although he could be fired any day now. We'll keep you updated on that. But what do you make of our boy, Charles Eugene M. London, the former longtime college football running back, longtime college running back coach, and now he's a quarterback coach. He just decided to become one like 5 years ago.
Shout out to Jake, because I think we share a very similar sentiment on this coaching staff as a whole. And I'll leave it at that for now, unless prompted by another super chat. But in terms of specifically London, not impressed. I mean, I don't need to tell Jets fans about the play we saw from Justin Fields.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, like, this is his first quarterback coaching gig, and I don't think he even has that much, if any, experience working with quarterbacks throughout his career, and that in and of itself isn't necessarily a huge problem. But again, the 1 year track record is not good. It feels reminiscent to Keith Carter. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Charles became a quarterback coach 4 years ago. So he was a QB coach for the Falcons for 2 years. He was a QB coach for the Titans for a year. He was a QB coach for the Seahawks for a year. And then he ended up here with the Jets. But again, the big concern is and with all due respect, he played running back in college. And then he became a GA at Duke, where he went to school. And then he just was on this running back coach journey for like a decade, basically.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Played college running back, wanted to be a running back coach. Okay. And then all of a sudden just went, you know what? I think I'm a quarterback coach. And then he just became one. It was just sort of weird. I don't know.
And two, and I mean, I'm just going off the top of my head based on what you just said. So Falcons 21-22.
Correct.
Those are Desmond Ridder years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Mariota and Ridder, correct.
Okay. I mean, that feels alarming.
That's a great pedigree, isn't it?
And then Seahawks 23. So that's what? That's
Titans
a Sam
23. Titans
23. Or Titans 23. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's
Will Levis probably, right?
That's Will Levis rookie year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
and then Seattle 24, which I imagine is your crown jewel for Geno Smith.
I guess, yeah, sure. Okay, Geno had a very good season there. But overall, doesn't get me too excited. And I think too, when you talk about, you have an offensive coordinator in Tanner Engstrand, who is his first offensive coordinator job. I would have liked a little more experience dealing with specific positions, or I should say a little more good experience dealing with specific positions. So yeah, I think this offensive staff and the defensive staff obviously is going to get a makeover that is much needed, and Aaron Glenn's going to get another swing at trying to build the staff that he actually needs to succeed.
All right, let's dive here into the second round. Back to you, Jim.
Okay, so Anthony, on the clock at pick 33, I know that your guy AJ Halsey is sitting there pretty close to the top of the draft board. What do you think you're going to do here at pick 33?
Yeah, so I'm of the mindset that if the first two picks for the Jets are offense, I think the next two picks should be defense, because quite literally you could draft any defensive position for the Jets, and it's warranted. The purposes of this, I'm happy taking A.J. Halsey at 33. I think he's a hell of a football player that could even sneak into round one. I think that highly of him.
Hey, Anthony,
So,
real quick, can you just,
yep.
anytime that you guys, either of you, say it, can you say the position and what school they're from for people? I think, because just from an introduction standpoint, they may not know.
For sure, yeah. So this is AJ Halsey, is a safety for LSU. Came over from Houston the year prior, transferred to LSU. Had a lot of success this past season. He is your classic, hard hitting, strong safety. He's 6'1", 222. He is, not afraid to hit you. He'll play down in the box. Can offer really solid run support. But I think what makes him a really good safety prospect is he still has that cover ability. A lot of safeties, when they are these bigger run support guys, they lack that ability to drop back in coverage on the back end. Halsey has it. Now, he's not going to be the rangiest and most athletic safety you're ever going to see as a cover guy, but he has those instincts in coverage. He has really solid ball skills. Multiple interceptions this year. Him and Mansour Delane, the corner for LSU, were just like a really sick duo for that LSU secondary. Obviously, they had a disappointing year, and that sort of fell apart for them. But they, as individual players, had really good seasons. The Jets safety room, I mean, it's been awful basically since Jamal Adams, Marcus May years.
Yes.
We haven't had really any legitimate players back on the back end, and also really haven't invested meaningful draft capital into that position. So that's probably reflective of that. I think AJ Halsey comes in day one starter and can be that sort of attacking physical safety that could really boost Aaron Glenn's secondary.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, you said it all. 2017 was that double dip the Jets did with Jamal and Marcus May back to back. That was the first time, either in history or the first time in a long time, they went DB back to back with their first two picks of a draft. So, they need it. And boy, again, you sort of said it earlier, defense. We'll talk about it through all these different iterations. We're still only in iteration number one, but you're talking about, safety, corner, linebacker, defensive tackle, defensive end. I mean, literally anything. Blindfold yourself in the next one, Anthony. Grab a dart, just throw it. Hopefully no one's in your house and just gets randomly plucked by a dart out there in the air, but the Jets defense could probably use it. Yep.
Yeah, no, for sure. And now again here at pick 44, I'm still looking defense, and I'm of the belief that defensive line in some form or fashion has to be dealt with one of these picks, if not even potentially multiple picks. So I'm looking at obviously Quinnen Williams traded to Dallas, that hole in the middle of the defensive line and the run defense is there. Juwan Briggs obviously kind of had a nice season, arguably was the most improved Jet of 2025, which is saying something. Not necessarily good things, but I think you gotta address the defensive tackle spot. Here in this scenario, we're looking at three guys: Dominique Orange, the D tackle from Iowa State, Big Citrus is his nickname. So he immediately is a great player based solely on that.
Best analysis you've had on the show so far. Yeah.
I mean, it's sometimes I really don't need to do a lot of work to be able to show my expertise. Kristen Miller, the defensive tackle from Georgia, and then Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle from Texas Tech. In this scenario, for me, I like Lee Hunter the best, so we can take him here at 44. Just had a great year. If you watched that Texas Tech Oregon game, I think really put on display what he does so well. His stack and shed ability as a run defender in the middle, but also has that athleticism to pursue and chase down guys. And he's a big boy. He's round about 320, 325, sort of in that range. He is a dynamic player that I think kind of got a little slept on because I think of how dynamic David Bailey and Romello Height, their edge players, were this year, and they were great. But Lee Hunter sort of slept a little under the radar for a lot of people. I think now that we're in this draft process, And again, people are going to go back and watch the playoff game. People will realize Lee Hunter is an easy top 50 player, if not even higher.
And I want to emphasize the fact that Lee Hunter just went at pick 44. And Anthony has been on Lee Hunter for a while. The rest of the draft community is catching up to Anthony. Right? Because if you just would have talked, like, go watch some of the Draft Professor podcasts, even from October and November, nobody had Lee Hunter that high. Right. And when I say nobody, I want to say, like, Anthony is among the first to be calling him that high. So that's, great work by Anthony. But a lot of people were saying Lee Hunter is somewhere like round 3-4 when we were like October, November. But he has played really well in the college football playoff. He's done really well for himself, and he is going to be in Mobile, right? So the Senior Bowl is about 2 weeks away. So there's even a chance that the Jets coaches might be the coaches in Mobile. So they'll have a really good look at him as well.
So, Anthony, let me do a quick follow-up on that. Great call-out here by Jim. As a draft analyst and someone who does this with tape study and everything else that you break down to assess all of this, is that like one of the most validating parts of this process? Because I was with you guys for a random live stream in like May, and you guys were looking at, it may have been even earlier than that, you guys were looking at quarterbacks like a class ahead of where we were. So actually it might have even been before the 25 draft, but you guys were looking at 26, and I'm like, what is wrong with you people? But I love it. So is it somewhat validating? You guys are doing this process, and you identify a guy, and no one else is on that guy, but you're on that guy. And then eventually, as we go through the process, because a college football season plays out, we're obviously, and we'll talk about this with some of these prospects, that stock is going to change. We've got the Senior Bowl in 2 weeks, the Panini Senior Bowl. I'm going to have to get used to that one. So we got the Senior Bowl, we got the Combine, we have the draft, like we have pro days, we have all of these different things that are going to change draft stock as they come through. Is that a validating part of the process that you love about these identification processes? And then you go back to it and you're like, wow, that was a guy I talked about a year ago. That's a guy I talked about this many months ago. It's like, your little boy's being drafted.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, and I appreciate Jim and anyone who, gives me any sort of credit for that. I have plenty of players that I was high on a couple months ago, and now I'm going to pretend that they don't even exist. So we all of us have our hits and misses in this whole months long process. And look, the ultimate hits and misses are when they are in the NFL and what their careers wind up being. So that's obviously important to point out, but no, it is cool. I mean, it's a cool experience to find guys, and a lot of I'll say the mainstream draft coverage that you see. I think a lot of guys aren't watching tape on the next class of players until like the winter months and when the regular season comes to an end. So when we're starting on these guys in May, June, July, it's we kind of feel like, yeah, we've been here, and that's what makes Draft Professor so great is we have these videos that we do and the content that we put out where we can point back to and say that, look, this was the scouting report on him in the summer, and now we're seeing it play out. And I can use Lee Hunter as an example. He was a transfer from Central Florida and, did a great job there. And that's why I was talking about him. But you needed to see what he would be with an elevated role and an elevated presence on a team like Texas Tech, who we knew was gunning for a national title and at least a playoff spot. And he delivered. So yeah, it's obviously great when that happens. And again, that's why like Draft Professor is great, because it allows you as a viewer, even if you're not as obsessed with the draft as we are, you could still at least like hear these names and then watch them through the season and be like, oh yeah, I remember hearing about him. This guy is really good. So I think that's what separates Draft Professor from a lot of the draft coverage that you'll see in sort of the mainstream.
Again, we've got 400 people live here in the room. We're streaming across multiple platforms, my Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're over there on the Draft Professors Twitter and YouTube as well. So show your support no matter where you are. Like the video if you're watching on YouTube. We appreciate it. Keep that love coming here on the channel. This is, and for folks who are just joining us, like, oh, geez, the mock draft's over. Oh, God, they went through the 4 picks already. We're doing 10 versions of this. So Anthony, GM boy over there, is getting 40 picks. Some odd, if my math is math in there. So long story short, we're going to be talking about a lot of different scenarios and a lot of different prospects. And this one we talked about yesterday in our pre-production to make sure all our buttons are working, and the demo presentation you guys gave me, where Dante Moore goes number 1. Now, Jim, you'll explain in a second, I'm sure, as we continue to go through this, that the challenge of this is not just to keep doing the same mock draft over and over and over again, and they keep saying the same prospects. We're going to be talking about different ones, and it challenges you to mock harder, baby. Mock me like a hurricane.
Oh, I love the Scorpions reference. Keep it up. So that's CD somewhere behind me.
Yeah.
So with the Jets picking it 2, you're not going to see a whole lot of variety, right?
Sure.
Because the way that a second round challenge is programmed is that it's going to be a different first round pick each of the times that we do it. But the idea is to make the second round pick unique. So when we get into the second round, I'll show you kind of what the simulator's doing. But again, the idea, as you said, Paul, is to make this harder. So it always bothered me when I used another mock draft simulator and the same player was always there. I'm like, well, okay, that's not random enough for me. The draft is more random. So I designed an algorithm that is going to make it harder. And that's part of what the second round challenge is. So, Anthony, you want to talk about Fernando Mendoza from Indiana?
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, this is QB1. And Paul referenced our meeting that we had yesterday, where I've sort of made the point, and again, I believe Mendoza is QB1, and I would take him first overall if I was the Raiders. However, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Dante Moore winds up being first overall. And I think a lot of that is going to be who they hire as a head coach. And, again, we're going to go through this whole draft cycle and process, and we'll see what and obviously we got to see if Dante Moore declares. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Mendoza winds up being QB1. I mean, we've had years before where we get surprised even on draft night itself who winds up being the first QB overall. I could obviously point to Baker Mayfield, wind up being a Cleveland Brown as an example. So, we will not know until much later in this process who the first pick is going to be. I would not rule out Dante Moore being an option for the Raiders. And so potentially getting Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback from Indiana, is very possible. And I would be ecstatic. I think he brings everything you want to the table in terms of the mental side of the game. Incredibly smart player. This is somebody who was at Cal Berkeley the last year before being at Indiana this past season. Wicked smart guy. You'll see it. His ability to diagnose and to know where to go with the football is at a high enough level. He's got the starts. We're gonna, Dante Moore. One of the knocks on him is he's only started, I think it's 18 football games in his career. Mendoza has well over 30, so he has that experience. He's got the ability to work in multiple offenses. What he did at Cal was very different than what he did at Indiana, but both places he found success as a quarterback. So I think, he's not the slam dunk, kind of Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence level prospect that we've had these past few years. But I still think he warrants being the first overall pick, or in this case, the second overall pick, and can step in and can be somebody that the Jets can say, okay, we can build around this player. He's also just like the coolest weird guy you've ever seen in your life. And I mean that with nothing but positivity and respect. Like he'll endear himself, I think, to Jets fans. So
So
for
Anthony,
whatever that's
real
worth.
quick. So
Yeah.
Anthony, real quick. You're saying there's a chance. Hmm?
I I think when ABBA wrote that song, I think they knew that
No
Fernando
question.
Mendoza was
Yeah.
coming, and that's why. And that song is all about him being a New York Jet.
Yeah, I clearly understand that too. So I'll go back to percentages, right? You said that you could see a world where Dante Moore is number one, and then obviously Fernando just like, whoa, 2018, when they traded from 6 to 3, they had no idea that Sam Darnold was going to be there. They're like, well, I guess we're getting Baker Mayfield or Josh Rosen, maybe. And then the shock, like either it was that morning or 24 hours before, Schefter's like, no, I think Baker's going number one here. And then we all started freaking out and going crazy. So, what are the chances you think that if Dante Moore enters this class, which we're going to find out this week, if he does or doesn't, if he's in this draft, what are the chances he's the number one overall pick over Fernando if you had to put a percentage on it right now, January 12th?
Yeah, I mean, without knowing who their head coach is a little tough. I would probably say in that like 15-20% range, which again, it's not huge, but as the song said, there's something in the air maybe, and there's a chance.
Okay, and Jim, would you be in the same realm? Again, this is so wild. There's no head coach selected yet. We're months ahead of the process, but still.
I'm not going to bet on it.
Okay, that's probably the safest, most natural way to put it. So I appreciate that. So that's beautiful. That's again.
Yeah,
that's
but
part of
if you do bet, gamble responsibly, right? I think we have to add that disclaimer in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
We
want to get
definitely
anybody
have
in
to
trouble.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay, so Anthony, you're on the clock at pick 16.
Yeah. So in this scenario, I mean, I talked about it before. But I think it's a sort of similar thought process where you have a young quarterback of the future. You want to build around them. For the purposes of this exercise and to sort of spark a different conversation, I think we could do a defensive player here, and then we'll talk about some wide receiver options with those later picks. So here, I'm looking at the edge group, which this is sort of something similar we were running into when we did a couple test mocks yesterday, and honestly, I think is very possible. Not a ton of great options here for me at the edge spot. I would probably look at the defensive tackle area, and that guy right there, Caleb Banks, the defensive tackle from Florida, I think is a hell of a player. So we'll take him here at 16. If you love just massive, potentially dominant players, Caleb Banks, your guy. He's 6'6". He's 335 pounds, and he has over 35-inch arms. So he is the definition of massive. But he will surprise you, I think, when you watch him, how athletic and fluid he is for a guy that is that massive. He's able to, a lot of taller players will sort of get knocked back because they just lose that natural leverage. I think Caleb Banks is actually pretty good at still being able to get low and create movement despite his massive frame. He had a foot injury this year, but came back and played well towards the end of the year. So I think that's not something I'd worry about too much. I think he comes in immediately, and we talked about losing Quinnen and what that means for the interior of the run defense. He can absolutely fill that void alongside guys like Juwan Briggs and Harrison Phillips, assuming they both come back. So I think that's a nice three-man defensive tackle lineup to have.
We definitely need that. There's no question about it. I want to go back to this before we lose it. Another super chat coming in from Troy Sturgis here on the program. A very important question here.
Wow.
Troy asks, and I think sometimes we're going to get this, why did Mendoza leave Cal?
So the simple answer is Cal was not an environment conducive to him being a successful quarterback. They lacked weapons. They didn't really have an offensive, a strong offensive coaching staff. I mean, obviously, we've seen the job that Curt Cignetti at Indiana has done. And Mendoza has taken full advantage of the offense and the culture that Cignetti has built there this past year. It's the same reason that a lot of quarterbacks are transferring. There's plenty of high-profile, talented players that are not in good situations, and it could be for a number of reasons. Coaching, talent, just overall culture and vibes. But Mendoza leaving is just that's sort of where we are in college football now. Players are looking for their best chance to, one, make money, and two, develop as players. So Indiana, he struck while the iron was hot, and it's obviously worked out tremendously for him. Very similar to when Cam Ward left Washington State and went to Miami, and he himself became a number 1 pick.
Yeah, and to add to that, first of all, if you want to hear what Anthony thought of Fernando Mendoza before he played for Indiana, we have that on a podcast, and it's pretty good, but that's on a podcast from the summer. But the second thing is California's in the ACC, right?
Yeah.
So there was a chance that no ACC team made the college football playoff. Think about that one for a minute, right? There was a debate right up to the last day as whether or not Miami even would get into the playoff.
It's true.
And then they were saying that no ACC team would have been in the playoff, right?
Correct, right. Because Duke, I think, won it. They wouldn't have come in, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to be able to say, like, if you're Fernando Mendoza, like, you already knew that. You already knew what level of conference. The Big Ten and the ACC can barely be compared, right? Because the Big Ten had, was it 3 teams in the playoff? Or was it 4? It was Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State was their 4th.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Big Ten put 3 teams into the college football championship. Like, if you're Fernando Mendoza, this is kind of your occupation. You have to know these things. If you have a chance to go to the Big Ten or the SEC as a quarterback, I think you have to do it.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I see we have another super chat. We'll get to that actually in a second because of all these different iterations of mock drafts. I'll get to that name. So Trackhawks ATL, I didn't forget about your super chat. We'll circle back to that on a iteration. I can guarantee. I'm sure that's where Anthony's going to go on one of these simulations. So we'll come back to that in a moment. Back to you, Anthony, here, and Jim.
Yeah, so we're looking now at pick 33, and Jim can now show that somewhere. Yeah, so there's A.J. Halsey. So now, because I took him at 33 in our first iteration, A.J. Halsey now not available for me to select here. So, as I mentioned before, I think you're looking at now we're looking at pass catchers for Fernando Mendoza, since we didn't take one at 16. We took Caleb Banks instead. I am a fan when it works out, when you're able to draft a wide receiver or tight end, whatever, that played with the quarterback that you are also selecting. I mentioned Cam Ward, like the Titans. I mean, he was a UDFA, but they wound up bringing in Xavier Restrepo, who played with him at Miami. I think there is something to that chemistry that's already been established. So Omar Cooper for me, maybe a little high at 33. Maybe this would be somebody you'd wait till 44 to take. But the Jets, again, just need pass catchers. So we can take Omar Cooper here, the wide receiver out of Indiana. He and Elijah Surratt, who is another name you ought to know, another wide receiver for Indiana. The two of them were sort of the 1-2 combo for Mendoza for most of the season. Cooper is more of that kind of athletic playmaker, can make some things happen after the catch, can make really impressive sort of leaping catches. Has good strong hands. Again, a little more of just like that athletic number 2 receiver that I think could complement Garrett Wilson nicely, and can be a difference maker in that quick to intermediate passing game that I think the Jets really want to elevate next season. So Omar Cooper, I think, would be a nice player, and again, give some familiarity to Mendoza coming in as our quarterback.
Love that.
Okay, so now we're on the clock at pick 44, and Lee Hunter is off the board before the pick. So the simulator, when you do a second round challenge, knows how to snipe the players that you've already picked. So you've done Mendoza, Banks, Omar Cooper. What are you thinking on defense here, Anthony?
Yeah, so I mean, I mentioned it before. I don't really think there's a wrong answer in terms of position. I think corner is certainly one you'd want to look at. I'm not the biggest fan of the corner board here, but I think another thing that Jets fans should sort of consider when we're talking about 44 in particular, is the Jets do not pick again on day 2, unless they do some sort of trade or something.
Right.
But they don't have another pick until day 3 in the draft, round 4.
Thanks, Hassan Reddick, you bastard.
Yeah, man, that worked out so great. So you have to think about it from the perspective of, even if you feel like a player you might draft here is over, you're reaching a little bit, like maybe, he's kind of in my 60 to 70 range on my board or the Jets board or whoever. But if you like that player and you want that player and he fills a need for your team, you gotta be willing to bite the bullet a little bit if you really want him. So, I wouldn't stress too much, if we're quote unquote reaching for a player at this spot, but you don't have the third round pick that you'd like to have, so you kind of have to make do with what you can.
And Anthony, just to jump in, I say that in fantasy football all the time. I have the 4th overall pick, and I'm like, oh, geez, there's a player I love at 7, but I have 4. I guess I can't take it. What the hell are you talking about? This is your chance. You either want him or you don't. And if you take him a little early, so what? That's a player that you want. So I get that's fantasy football made up land versus the draft, but if you love a guy, who's going to come over and say, well, technically, sir, that was an overdraft of 4 selections or 20 selections or 15. Take the guy you want, and then if you think he's going to be good, he's good. That's it.
Exactly right. It's the same exact logic. And I wouldn't get too hung up on pick value if I was Jets fans, unless it's if it's something egregious, then we could talk
like
about
Arian
that.
Smith in the 4th round.
Like taking Arian Smith in the 4th round when you have multiple other better wide receivers on the board, but we're not going to do that here.
Excellent.
So I think we can look again at the secondary. We did a safety before, so we can look at the corner board here. And I'm kind of just like looking at some of the names that are available. Sure. It's not ideal, but we can actually stick with the Indiana theme that I unintentionally created here. And we can look at D'Angelo Ponce, the cornerback from Indiana, and look, you're gonna Google D'Angelo Ponce, and you're going to see his measurables, and you're going to come back to me and say, Anthony, what the hell are you doing taking a 5'9", 175 pound corner with the 44th pick in the NFL draft? And I would tell you, go watch the tape, and tape is king. And when this guy is on the football field, he is one of, if not the best, just pure man corners, able to mirror wide receivers with the best of them. His technique and his fundamentals as a corner are again just like top levels in this class. If D'Angelo Ponce was 6'1", 195, 200 pounds, he's an easy top 10, 15 pick. Unfortunately, he's going to fall because he is not. But when you look at the Jets, who again just need help in the secondary, need playmakers, need to be able to make an interception, D'Angelo Ponce can do it. I think he has multiple pick sixes this year, if I'm not mistaken. I know he has at least one. And he has multiple. I know he has multiple interceptions. So this is a guy that makes plays on the ball, and can be, he's going to get overpowered just naturally because of his size, but it's not going to be embarrassing to watch him. He has that feistiness, and again, his technique is so sound. I think it can make up for some of those physical deficiencies. I think getting him here at 44, I would be happy as a Jets fan.
That's what I.
So the simulator immediately started the third. I grabbed Mendoza at the top. You're back to pick 16, Anthony. Anything that you want to do different?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've kind of talked about it. I would lean offense, with this pick, regardless, honestly, whether the Jets take a quarterback at 2. One of the scenarios that maybe I'm not necessarily going to bang the table for, but was one that played out yesterday when we did this, and I suppose you could consider, is if Jeremiah Love is at this spot.
Ooh, baby.
And you're in the assumption that Breece Hall is not back next year if you're making this pick. Obviously, if Breece Hall's back, this is ridiculous and dumb. But assuming he's not back, and I would probably lean towards he's not, you get a player like Jeremiah Love, who I'm lower on than I think 95% of draft America is, and the draft world is. But
why don't you love Jeremiah Love? Why don't you love Love? Look at this. Look at right here. Look at this Notre Dame Golden Domer helmet right here.
I'm sorry.
Dare you? How dare you? I was just in South Bend for the first time in my life, watching Jeremiah Love run all over my poor Syracuse orange, which was phenomenal. But Jeremiah Love, come on. Why do you hate children? Why do you hate world peace and solving food and hunger? Come on, man.
I promise it's not a anti-Catholic sentiment of any kind. I assure you. Right. We stand for religious freedom and all that good stuff.
Yes.
Yes, but no. Look, I think Jeremiah Love's a very good football player. I would not be upset if he winds up in a Jets uniform. I just think he's incredibly dynamic. I have questions about him as a true 3-down workhorse back in the NFL, which we are talking about Jeremiah Love as like in the Ashton Jainty, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley levels of prospect. And in that regard, I have questions about his blocking. I have questions about his elusiveness in the open field. I think there are times where he bounces runs to the outside that I kind of wish he would put his foot in the ground, just make a cut, and just go full steam ahead. Because he's not he's a pretty big guy. He's 6 foot 215. Like he's not one of these he's not one of these like smaller backs that you want like bouncing around and trying to create space. Like, he can get physical. I just feel like he chooses sometimes not to get physical, and I'm kind of like, all right, I would like you to do that. So I would ideally take him as like a kind of like a Breece Hall, like that top of the second round kind of range is where I would take Jeremiah Love.
So think about the Jahmyr Gibbs pick for a second.
Yeah, 12th
and think
overall.
of how many ways that could go south if you draft a not 3-down back in round 1. The fact that Jahmyr Gibbs has a partner in that backfield.
Jadarian Price.
That's what makes that work in Detroit. If Gibbs was the only back in that backfield, that pick doesn't look as good as it does, because I don't know that you could use Gibbs for 250 or 300 touches a year.
We're about to find out, apparently. What's his name? Oh, my God. Brad Holmes. He indicated that they may trade David Montgomery this offseason. So we may see Gibbs as a single fish in that pond. And that'll be a curious test case.
They would probably replace him with a third, fourth round pick so that they have a committee there. Mm-hmm. But I do like the Breece Hall analogy, but Breece Hall was not a first round pick.
No, he's
and that's the overall issue. If you're grabbing Jeremiah Love in round 1, you're not getting a player that you're going to give. Like Christian McCaffrey I think they said on the broadcast last night, had something like 420 touches this year.
Yeah.
Right? So you're ready to give Jeremiah Love, let's say you just give him half that.
Mm-hmm.
You ready to give him 250 touches?
I love Love.
I mean, great player. And I saw in the chat, like people predicting him going to the Chiefs.
Yeah, top 10, right?
The Chiefs wouldn't, like, according to the different draft professors that are Chiefs fans, he's going to the Vikings because the Chiefs are picking high enough that they're going to be able to get a better player at a different position. I don't think he goes to the Chiefs. I think he goes to the Vikings.
But do you guys both think he does end up being a first-round pick, but you would prefer him in the Brees Hall range is what you're saying?
Yes, and I think the other kind of thing to consider with the question of where Love winds up is this running back class is no bueno. It is not,
which boosts Love, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying is you have a player like Jeremiah Love who, again, even I'm low on him, but I acknowledge that he and I'm a big Jonah Coleman fan, the running back from Washington, but when you look past it gets slim pickings, man. Need a running back, and your team, I mean, like the Chiefs, I probably agree with him, though. I think top 10 pick, you look elsewhere.
Hey, real quick, Anthony, I think your mic's cutting out or something's happening there.
Oh, my bad. How about now? We're good?
Okay, yeah, I think you're good now. Yep, sorry about that.
Sorry about that. No, my bad.
We're still getting it. You may want to just unplug, replug, see something. We're getting this. I don't think it's me, and I don't think it's Jim. But I think it just kind of keeps cutting in and out, and it's wrestling around there. So it's just destroying whatever beautiful things you may be saying. Unless, of course, you're throwing more slander than Jeremiah Press or Jeremiah Love, excuse me. I know I just combined, I just fusion Hod, Dragon Ball Z style, two Notre Dame running backs. But yes, if it's more of that slander, then yeah, absolutely keep your mic destroyed. But I'm
just insulting Notre Dame. How about now?
That's it. Okay, beautiful. It may have been the Catholics outside in the minivan. They heard that.
We're getting hacked by Notre Dame fans.
That
No, I'll just say I think he goes first round because of the lack of depth in this class. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Anthony, we are at pick 33. The simulator makes sure that AJ Halsey and Omar Cooper Jr. are not available for your pick. What are you going to do at pick 33?
So, yeah, I mean, again, I think we look at defense again. There's two good corners here at the top. That I think the Jets will, or at least ought to look at. Avion Terrell is probably, if you're a casual college football fan, more likely you've heard. He's the corner at Clemson. And then Chris Johnson, not to be confused with CJ2K, but Chris Johnson, the corner out of San Diego State, maybe a little more or less known to the general public. But actually a player that I'm higher on. So we'll take Chris Johnson for this pick here at 33. Incredibly just, again, one of these corners that just has that feel in coverage and those instincts in coverage that you love to see on display. Maybe not to the same level, but I think he's going to have that sort of similar vibe to Quinyon Mitchell when he came out of Toledo. Where
2 picked yesterday, very nice, Quinyon.
Yeah, and I mean, top 5 potentially corner.
And he just stumbled in the draft for some random reason, right?
And he fell to 20. I don't remember the number, but yeah, he fell to the 20s for some odd reason. He was a top 10 player for me that year, by the way. And Chris Johnson's not quite there for me in terms of where I rank him, but a player I would love to get at 33. I think he's a great athlete, has great instincts and coverage, ability to play man and zone, which I think Aaron Glenn will appreciate. I think he has, for the Jets, I think he has corner 1 potential. So I would, again, if we're getting him at 33 in this scenario, I think that's a really solid option for the Jets.
Yes, CJ2K, baby, give it to me. We had a Chris Johnson here once. I'd love to do it again. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, Anthony, you're at pick 44. Hunter and Pons were sniped before your pick. What do you do?
Yeah, so one of the things, I already talked about it. There needs to be a wide receiver or tight end taken. One of the things that I've talked about on Draft Professor, we did a tight end podcast series where we went through basically all the top tight ends in this upcoming class, and the overall consensus generally is this tight end class is also one of the weaker position groups in the draft this year. We already talked about Kenyon Sadiq. He's pretty clearly, I think, tight end one for pretty much everybody. But after him, again, slim pickings. So I think the only tight end available right now that I would take is Oscar Delp. Who's at the top there, the tight end from Georgia. I think he is another one that's kind of getting slept on because he didn't have the greatest season production-wise. But incredible athlete. And one of the things I think for the Jets, too, I know they have Mason Taylor. I'm fully aware, and I loved Mason Taylor, and I continue to expect big things from him. But I think the Jets are well-served to run a lot more 12 personnel than they do right now to get two tight ends on the field to, one, help create more running lanes for whoever their running back is, which might be Jeremiah Love, I guess, in this scenario, or two, to create kind of more of those two tight end looks that you saw Engstrand operating in Detroit, under Ben Johnson, obviously, but that kind of offensive style, I think, is more what the Jets want to do, but they just really haven't had the second tight end to do that with Mason Taylor. So I think Delp can come in and be that complement to Taylor, work the middle of the field, use his athleticism after the catch to get additional yards for the Jets offense. So I wouldn't rule out tight end as a potential one of these four picks for the Jets, but I just do think it has to be the right value for them.
Okay, because that's where I definitely wanted to go. Again, another reminder, we have 500 people in the room. Make sure you support no matter where you're watching, whether it's on the Draft Professor's YouTube or Twitter, or my YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, especially for the people here on YouTube. Make sure you guys like the video. We have over 160 people in the room on my side here on YouTube, but only 72 likes. What the hell are you holding those out for? Come on, like the gosh darn video, for God's sakes. And we have a lot of super chats coming through. We'll work those into the conversation as well. Mason Taylor, 42nd overall pick last year. So what is it? Just the Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski tight end action where, that for a brief period of time that dominated the league. So you're saying Bell Bottoms could be back in? We could get some more two tight end activity offense and make some noise?
I think so. And again, it's nothing. You are not going to find a much bigger Mason Taylor guy last year than I was. I argued he could potentially go first round. I was ecstatic when he fell to the Jets in the second. But yeah, I think the Jets will, again, want to get more 12 personnel in their offense. And I think you're seeing not even just the Jets wanting to do that. I think you're seeing that around the league is something that teams are doing. They are adding more tight ends on the field because of how versatile they are. Jim could tell you all about what they're doing in Buffalo with Jackson Hawes, who is basically
I love Jackson Hawes.
He's a sixth offensive lineman.
Tight end 3. He's tight end 3.
I can't believe you guys got him so late last year. That's ridiculous.
Well, look at the Rams. The Rams are probably in 3 tight end sets 33% of the time or more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they're running 13 personnel. Generally speaking, it feels like the league is going to more 2 tight end sets because a lot of teams are playing base nickel. So the way that you get them out of base nickel is you run 2 tight end sets or 3 tight end sets, force them to play linebackers that don't play very much. Right? I mean, ultimately, right? I'm a Bills fan. I would rather have the 5th defensive back than the 3rd linebacker on the field. Like, it's just, if you just look at like the quality of where the Bills roster is. So, but Anthony, we're at pick 16. I was able to take Mendoza at the top spot. What do you want to do at 16 here?
Yeah, and I'll say too, we'll definitely do one, if not multiple scenarios where the Jets do not take a quarterback with the second overall pick, because obviously that is very in the realm of possibility.
Let me actually, because we're doing that, I'll work in a super chat here because this is, I figure, in one of those iterations that we do, this will happen. So I just want to get this in. Trackhawks ATL says Ruben Bain! Exclamation point! Who he just screams from the rooftop, Ruben Bain!
Wow.
Your dog is awesome, Paul. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. The fans it somehow became a thing on the show where they said every time we get a super chat, you get a wow from my daughter. I said, that's something I could get behind. So what about this Batman villain, Ruben Bain? Because again, we're eventually going to see it in an iteration, so might as well work it in here. Ruben Bain, second overall, as an option for the Jets at second overall.
Yeah, so in the non-quarterback world, right. Ruben Bain is at least a top 2 option for the Jets, if not a number 1 option for me. First I'll say, Ruben Bain was my number 1 player over summer scouting. So I've been on the Bain train for, what is it now, 6 months or however long it's been now. You're not going to find a bigger Bain fan than I've been. He's just a game wrecker, and I mean, I could just look at the past, the entire playoffs, really. He's just been dominating pretty much every single offensive lineman that he goes up against. The incredible just knockback power that's in his hands is just special. It's a special kind of strength that not everyone has, but for a guy who's 6'2", 270-ish kind of size, kind of frame, he can bend. He's got some bend. He's not going to be a elite first step quickness kind of guy, but he can bend. He can get around the edge and get around those bigger offensive tackles, but it also just, again, has the power to run through a chest if he needs to, in the way that, we've seen Jared Verse do for the Rams. And again, obviously, like a different body type and skill sets at that, but people talk about potentially playing him on the interior. I think he's best as an edge, but I think he offers you the flexibility to kick inside in certain fronts and certain blitz schemes and things like that.
Was he the one that people have been yelling about arm length already?
Yes, so that is going to be the conversation with Ruben Bain. His arms are believed to be sub 31 inches. Which
T-Rex arms. He can't get things off the top shelf.
Exactly right. So for those who aren't familiar with the arm length conversation, first of all, consider yourself blessed because it's one of the most tedious parts of this whole thing. But generally, for edge rushers and defensive linemen in particular, you generally want to be at least above 32. Ideally, above 33 is probably what you'd want. So when I talked about Caleb Banks before being 35, that is 98th, 99th percentile for defensive linemen. Sub 32 is kind of like a red flag, and then sub 31 is like a football field covered in red flags. So I'm not going to pretend that there isn't. I'm not going to say there's no concern with arm length, but I think sometimes we kind of just have to go back to the tape, and he's played against future NFL offensive linemen. I wouldn't say he's played against any elite prospects by any means this year, but played against some really good players and consistently produced and consistently created pressure and got in the backfield. And also sets a good hard edge as a run defender. So you don't have to worry about that. He's got the pass rushing chops, but can also play well against the run. And you saw that in the game against Ole Miss as well, and throughout the playoffs. So I think Ruben Bain, even with the arm length questions, is still probably going to wind up as a top 5 player on my board total. And for the Jets specifically, I think they need to get another pass rusher along that defensive line. I think he's a fantastic choice.
All right, so it's a shout out to Trackhawks ATL. So you're on the Bane train. That's lovely, but it sounds like again you're not on the Love Boat. Lou B, Super Jets fan saying.
Wow.
Jeremiah Love is the best player in this draft. That's something clearly some of these people on the screen do not agree with. I'm so sorry, Luby. He's been such a Jeremiah Love supporter on the program. Wanted to make sure we got your super chat in and added that to your raffle total this month. So he is Love is the best player in the draft. Just wanted to throw that out there. And then one more here is on the quarterbacks, which will give us other quarterback conversation. We'll get back to our mock draft scenarios here. Fighter Jet sends in this $5 super chat.
Wow.
He says, even if Dante Moore declares he doesn't want him, give me Chambliss in round 2. You're not married to him, which still gives you the option to draft a quarterback in 2027. Essentially, pointing to the Jets' 3 first-round picks in the 2027 draft. You'd be more attached in theory if you take a quarterback in the first round, whether it's 2 or 16. And if they either are sort of in the middle, you're not sure if they're a success or a failure, that may give you some hesitation in 2027 to take another quarterback. He suggests, Fighter Jet, take Chambliss or some other quarterback, I would assume, in round 2. You're less attached. If it doesn't work out, who cares? Second-round picks get burned on quarterbacks all the time. Go back into 2027 with a quarterback. What's sort of your thought process about this potential strategy, boys?
So that's happened before. The Panthers took, I believe it was Jimmy Clausen round 2. The next year took Cam Newton, number 1 overall.
Yep.
It happened with the Cardinals. They took Josh Rosen, and then the following year took Kyler Murray, and both of them were first-round picks.
Correct, right?
I'm never a fan of wait till next year. That is a loser's mentality.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't think like that.
Plus, I went on your mock draft that we all did together. You guys told me about the quarterbacks coming up in the class, and how many of them were we talking about? Garrett Nussmeier? Where the hell is he? Drew Alar? Where the hell is he? And all these names that we went through, and none of those names we're talking about right now.
So everybody's going to tell you they think the quarterback class next year is going to be better than the quarterback class this year. They are probably right. But that doesn't mean that you punt on this year's draft. So the number of teams that have gone from worst to first, right? Let's go back a little bit. Houston Texans. They had 2 picks in the top 5. Mm-hmm. And then they made the playoffs, right? They did that in 1 year, right? The next year, the Washington Commanders, they were picking in the top 5 of the draft. They made the playoffs the next year. Okay, and now they're back to this year where they missed the playoffs and they're drafting in the top 10 again. But okay. Then the following year, right? So this year, look at the Bears and look at the Patriots. Mm-hmm. They were in the top 5 of the draft. Actually, the Bears may have been in the top 10. But
Jaguars. Right. Sure.
And the Jaguars. Okay. So 3 teams that were drafting in the top 10 last year made the playoffs this year. Right? You have to think, what do I need to do in 1 season to turn it around? You need to think like that. And if Aaron Glenn can't think like that, I agree with the person that you should get rid of him. And I know Anthony is not an Aaron Glenn fan either. But my opinion would be you go for quarterback this year. And then if it doesn't work, you're probably sacking quarterback and coach next year.
And I would just piggyback off of that. And I pretty much agree with everything Jim said. But I would piggyback for as bad as the Jets have generally been for too long. All of my adult life, really. Yeah. How many times have they picked top 2? Zach Wilson? That's pretty much it. And obviously that didn't, didn't go well. And there's reasons for that and whatever. But the point is, you do not get a chance to pick top 2 that often for as bad as the Jets have been. The Raiders haven't picked first overall since Jamarcus Russell,
2007.
Right, yep. And they've been bad too. Like obviously a couple good years with Derek Carr, but overall they've been pretty terrible the past 20 years. Mm-hmm. So even for bad teams and teams that are consistently bad, you don't get this chance. You don't get the chance to pick top 2. So if you're and look again, obviously if Dante Moore's not in the class and Fernando Mendoza goes 1. That's just that happens, and it's like with the last year with Cam Ward, and that was it. Mm-hmm. You got to find another avenue. But if you have the opportunity to draft a quarterback that warrants a top 2 or 3 pick, you have to take it. Now, if you're like
Agreed.
Fighter Jet and you don't want Dante Moore, you don't think he's that kind of player, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their view. But if the Jets think he is worth the second overall pick, there is zero reason you don't take him.
And there's a concept called quarterback purgatory, right? And the Pittsburgh Steelers are the epitome of that. They're never bad enough to draft in the top 5, okay? But they haven't drafted a quarterback that succeeded since Roethlisberger, okay? For those that don't know, I'm a Bills fan, okay? I lived through the longest playoff drought in sports history.
17 years.
Buffalo only drafted in the top 10 one of those years.
That's crazy. I didn't know that stat. That's unbelievable.
Right. So that's what I mean. Like, to Anthony's point, if you're picking this high, you don't get this opportunity. You can be bad and still not get a top 10 pick.
Yeah, right. Of course. Right.
So when you're drafting in the top 10, don't think like you're going to be there next year. Again, that's a loser's mentality.
Yeah.
Do not think like that. Now, reality says, me on the outside looking in, I'm pretty much going to predict that the Jets are probably drafting in the top 10 next year. Right? Check the simulator draft order in May, because that's the one I get to make up before the NFL season begins. I can guarantee you the Jets in Miami are drafting in the top 10.
And Jim, do you care to share where you had the Jets picking when we started the season?
Did I have him number 1?
Yes, you most certainly did.
Oh, you sicko.
Okay.
What the hell?
Yeah, and I resented Jim ever since.
I didn't remember that was who I had at the top.
Yes, you did.
I remember now.
Unbelievable. So thank you for the super chats. Again, I want to work those in the middle of our conversation, so wanted to put those back in. But let's go back to the draft situation. Again, we have 500 plus people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe. Again, we're doing this great draft content. We'll be doing it all offseason long, and obviously the draft professors are always cranking it out. So hit that subscribe button on any of our YouTube channels that you may be watching. I'm trying to make a chase to 10,000 subscribers. We're like 15-ish away from 8,300 on the Boy Green channel. So keep that love coming, baby. We'd really appreciate it. That's youtube.com/@boygreen25. All right, let's get back into the mocking, boys.
Okay, so Anthony, we're in the 4th mock of the 10 that we're doing. Mendoza went with the Jets' first pick. What do you want to do with pick 16?
So, and this is again kind of what we were talking about with the simulator as a whole is, you're going to keep just running into different scenarios and players, and I mean we've got multiple players here that we haven't even touched on yet. All right,
let me ask you about a possibility here, because we talked about this yesterday. Maybe you were going to end up here, but just because we have this simulation where Dante Moore went 2 to the Jets, you talked about it yesterday about potentially here having a double dip. You mentioned it on the Fernando Mendoza possibility. Like if he somehow is at 2 in our simulations, that you could get Indiana guys with him that have a natural connection, and it makes a lot of sense. Now, in theory, this wouldn't make sense on the surface. The Jets just took Mason Taylor, the 42nd overall pick, but you have mentioned how much you have a man crush on. You passed the note in the back of the schoolroom in elementary school for some Kenyon Sadiq action. Is that a realistic possibility that the Jets could go to Oregon Duck and quack, Mighty Ducks go back again for another one at 60 with Kenyon Sadiq and reunite these 2 long-lost lovers from Oregon and reunite them at the NFL level? Is that something that's in your ethos?
I think it definitely is. And I mean, I went through the whole thing about, adding a tight end and doing more of that 12 personnel thing. I actually think Sadiq offers a really good skill set to sort of complement, what Mason Taylor gives you in terms of that, receiver, downfield can make plays in the passing game, and can also just be a good blocker for you. Kenyon Sadiq is more of that. Think of what Harold Fannin has been doing for the Cleveland Browns, and he went pick somewhere in the 3rd round.
Yeah, my dad won't stop talking about it. He does a mock draft on this channel at some point this offseason. The last year was like Harold Fannin Jr. And of course the Jets didn't take him, and he went, "I told you, Harold Fannin." I'm like, Jesus, Dad, get a room. So
Our
yes.
guy Ryan Sparks banged the drum that he was a first round pick, and
Wow.
is
Oh
looking
my
looking
God.
pretty smart right
Yeah,
now.
that's for sure. Yeah.
I was not that high on him, but I mean I liked him, but not to that level.
Sure.
But to my point about Sadiq, I think Sadiq can do all of the kinds of things that you see Harold Fannin doing for their offense, but actually has like I think more higher levels of like the athleticism that you want to see for an NFL player. But in terms of operating as sort of like in that H-back kind of role, he's for a guy who is a bit undersized. He's only like 6'3", 240, 245 kind of build. So, not the biggest tight end you're going to see, but can block well, run game, can especially get out.
1 second, Anthony. I got to stop you here. Your mic's having problems, so you may just want to fix something there, and then we'll circle back to that. We'll have Anthony as he's fixing his issues here. But again, go ahead, Jim. A little Kenyon Sadiq action for the Jets.
So we can go ahead and do Sadiq here, and then what's going to happen in round 2, and this will happen because we're in a second round challenge. So Halsey, Cooper, Johnson, who are the players that Anthony took the first 3 mocks, will always be off the board before his second round pick. That's what a second round challenge does, is it learns to snipe the players that you like, and it challenges you to find more. So another safety that Anthony likes is Dylan Thieneman. Now, there would be debate as to whether or not Thieneman will be there at 33. For example.
Wait, is that another duck?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is that another duck?
Yes, that's another duck.
Okay, wow. We were going hunting out there.
Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon. Anthony will tell you he plays single high really well. He's a different kind of safety than A.J. Halsey. Seahawks need a safety. Denver needs a safety. Patriots need a safety. Buffalo needs a safety. And the Texans need a safety. So Thieneman, there's a reasonable chance he's going at the end of round 1. If Thieneman is there at pick 33, Anthony, do you like him?
I do, and I'm gonna hope and pray that I don't keep cutting out. I have no idea what the problem is.
No, it's okay. We got you.
But I'm gonna tell.
Sorry, Anthony. Now you're completely gone. So
we'll
mute you and we'll try to come back to you.
I see the Daquan Wright. As best I know, Daquan Wright is in this draft class. I'd have to go verify if he has eligibility left. I haven't heard of anybody being top 50 on Daquan Wright, but I would say that he does get day 2 love. He just doesn't get top 50 love. And Anthony may weigh in as to where exactly Wright is. And Anthony and I go back and forth on his microphone once in a while too. So
okay, that's all right.
So at pick 44 in this one, let's see if I've done Mendoza, Sadiq, Thieneman. So another defensive lineman that we should talk about is Dominique Orange. That's Big Citrus.
Love that nickname.
So very good all nickname team.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Kind of thing. So it has a little bit of athletic ability, but one of the things you're going to see in this draft class is it's not anywhere near as good as last year's defensive tackles. Okay. You're generally either going to get a defensive tackle that is going to be a nose tackle, run stuffer, or you're going to see somebody that's maybe a smaller defensive tackle, but now you can't put them over the nose, right? So there's not a lot of guys like we had last year where like Derek Harmon could do either, kind of thing. It's not that kind of draft class at defensive tackle. So this one we'll do Ruben Bain at 3 because we haven't done that one yet. And then one other player to talk about at pick 16 will be Jermod McCoy from Tennessee. So if you watch anybody's summer scouting, Jermod McCoy was the number 1 corner consensus in summer scouting. He hasn't played a down since.
Wow, really? Okay.
Right.
What happened
Yeah.
there?
So he and we knew that in the summer, right? He
Sure.
tore his ACL at the end of the 2024 college
Oh.
season.
Hmm.
And there's a couple draft professors that are Volunteers fans. And
Mhm.
what they said is that he was ready to come back this year, but Tennessee was out of it, so they held him out.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know that that's fact. What is a fact is we haven't seen him play football in 13 months.
So this off-season process, pre-cycle of combine with the medicals and things are going to be massively important for this young man.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look, Revel went to Dallas last year. Will Johnson had a injury flag last year. So there's plenty of data, even as recently as 8 months ago, where NFL teams are taking those players. The question is, do you take them round one? So McCoy is a Jet to me. That seems like, because you need defensive back help.
No doubt.
And how do I want to say this? So there's only 2 corners that are consensus first round guys.
Okay.
One is Mansour Delane, who we have not had the opportunity to pick. He hasn't dropped to the Jets in any of these. And then the other is Jermod McCoy. Okay. And then there's plenty of other guys that come into that conversation. But the 2 that are consensus are McCoy and Delane. And a lot of people say if McCoy gets a clean bill of health, he's going to be drafted top 10.
Really?
Like he's not.
Wow,
There's no way he's going to get right. Everybody's just looking for a clean bill of health. So the fact that he dropped to 16 might be generous right now.
Is there any chance that, okay, you said potentially top 10 pick? Would that mean we have 2 corners in the top 10? Or is there any chance he can usurp and jump back to cornerback number 1 if he has a clean bill of health?
So yes, I do think 2 corners can go in the top 10.
Okay.
Yes, I think he could usurp and become corner 1. I think nearly everybody says that if McCoy is healthy, he's corner 1. But right now they have him at corner 2 because he's not healthy.
Right, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Well, right, but that also implies is that maybe Mansour Delane, who started the season strong, he's not. He didn't put all the film out there everybody wanted to see. I think it's the right way to put it.
And isn't that inherently unfair, right? It's it's an injury, whatever the injury is. But it's almost like Notre Dame in the conference championship game, right? So they don't have a conference championship game. Not playing in it gives you inherent pros because you can't lose. So a player having a mystery box, the Family Guy mystery box scene of not knowing what this year could have been, benefits him if Mansour on the other side didn't get the tape that some people wanted. So he benefits while the other guy had to play and the other guy didn't. That's an interesting little machination there.
So, and this is
Anthony
also,
back, by the way, real quick. Anthony,
I'm going to talk slowly and I'm going to acknowledge if there's a bad audio. You can kick me out, but I think it's okay now.
Okay, yeah, you sound great. So, okay,
awesome.
So, Anthony, I gave you Reuben Bain and Jermod McCoy in round 1.
Solid haul. See that Jim's been with me long enough to know what I would have done anyway.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
So you're at pick 33, and Halsey, Cooper, Johnson, and Thieneman have been sniped from you.
All right. Well, so I'm sorry, I don't know what Jim has already explained, but basically, I think now that we've taken 2 defensive players, you still need to address offense. Even if you don't take a quarterback, there's obviously holes at the wide receiver position. So
to ask your overall thing here, Anthony, in a perfect world, the Jets have 4 picks inside the top 44. Let's, when we eventually do trade box, good Lord, our brains are going to explode. So let's keep it as close as we can here. So 4 picks, top 44. Let's say there's no trades. In a perfect world, the Jets walk out of the octagon because they don't have a 3rd-round pick, as we talked about earlier. Damn you, Hassan Reddick. So we only have 4 picks inside the first 2 days of the draft. That they walk out of that, if no trades, with 2 offense, 2 defense. That in a perfect world, that's how you see it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the ideal scenario is you get your quarterback at 2, you get a difference maker in the passing game with one of the picks, and you get 2 guys on defense that are immediate impact players, and that's your ideal for however that works out with the picks.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Let me work in a super chat here while Jim is explaining in the comment section what the hell is going on here if people just stumbled into this room. So we have a super chat here, and this is a guy I'm going to even need some more insights in from Lou B, Super Jets fan.
Wow.
Quan Wright, tight end thoughts, will he declare? What do you know about him, Anthony?
Yeah, so Daquan Wright is a big tight end from Ole Miss. I'm trying to find his measurements. I think he's like 6'5", 260.
Okay.
And
Sounds
honestly, I say 260. He might even be bigger. Like he looks like a large, not like
Darnell
not like,
Washington.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say maybe not that far, but
Okay.
like in that vein of like, dude is just built different for the tight end position. Our guy Max Toscano, who people might know from his Remember the Tight End Substack. He loves the tight end position better than anybody else. Huge Daquan Wright fan. I think literally wrote like a whole article about him. But this is a big man who is asked to be a difference maker as a blocker and does it among the best in this class as a blocking tight end. But this year, I think, came along nicely as a reliable pass target for Trinidad Chambliss. And you'll see him a lot of times being able to work the middle of the field, has gotten better in terms of being able to feel soft spots in coverage and get open and make some like really sick catches. There's that one catch, and I don't know why I can't remember who it was against now, but he's sort of like he's running to the right side of the field, and Trinidad throws the ball kind of behind him, and so he basically does like a one-hand reach back kind of catch, and it's a thing of beauty. So if you're getting I mean, think of it this way, to put it simply, if you're getting a 6'5", 260-pound tight end that can block his you-know-what off and also can be an asset as a tight end too, and as a pass catcher, yeah, a great pick. Definitely, for me, I still think he needs to refine some things before I would say take him at 33 or 44. I would, if there was a third round pick, I would say look at him there. Okay. But good football player, and I wouldn't be like devastated if the Jets took him at 44. I think he's a good option, but I think it's a little rich for him.
Fair enough. Thank you, Lou B, Super Jet fan. You guys can keep your super chats coming if you have questions about prospects or scenarios we're exploring here on the show. Send in those super chats. You can do so if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that money sign, super chat options, and you can ask your questions or prospect questions as we're going through this. Back to you, Jim.
Cool. So Bain and McCoy in round 1. So you're looking for offense in round 2. Best available appear to be Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard. The defensive board looks really good. The offensive board, like Besantis and Pregnon, I don't know that you're as high on them as others, but is this the range that you see those guys? And would you do interior line for the Jets at the top of round 2?
So I'm glad you actually brought that up, because I was going to sort of dive into this conversation, because I do think it probably won't be one of the 4 picks, but I do think interior offensive line could be considered. And that mainly boils down to what the future of John Simpson and AVT is. My just personal view on it is John Simpson's probably back next year, and AVT probably isn't. Just because I think
Tippmann, you're keeping at right guard, Anthony?
Ideally, I'd want to move Tippmann back to center, because I think he was.
Okay.
I think Tippmann was good there. I mean, I don't. If he plays right guard, that's fine. But I always thought Tippmann was a quality center. And listen, if the Jets draft, if they find a good center prospect on day 3 that they like, because you probably don't take a center here, I think that moving Tippmann to guard and then playing that player at center is a fine option. I'm just kind of assuming, based on AVT's what he'll probably demand on the market, even though he's been injured, I still think he gets, at least like 15, maybe even like $20 million. And I
Really?
don't,
Wow. Okay.
I think so because, well, one, the guard market's not great, and two,
Sure.
he's still a young player who, yes, he's obviously had like multiple season-ending injuries
Yeah,
now.
so he's torn both triceps. That's 2 separate years. He tore his Achilles.
Right.
That's a 3rd separate year. So 3
Yep.
out of 5 years he's torn something, or a
Right.
season ending rather. Yeah.
Right, and obviously far from ideal.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but I would say I think he's been a good player when on the field and when healthy, and has shown you he can play multiple positions,
100%.
which is still valuable in the
Of
NFL.
course.
But will a new regime who is now in a total rebuild, obviously, are they going to want to pay that out for a guard when they're trying to, use all this draft capital to basically just build a new roster? I don't think so, but I could certainly be wrong.
I just
But
want them to pick a position for Tip. So if you want to be center, great. Because like his
Right,
entry
yeah.
point into the National Football League as a rookie was guard because of Connor McGovern. Then he took over at center. Then he was our center. All right, just kidding. This year, everything explodes. You're the right guard. He only has 1 year left on his deal now that this Jet season is over. That's 2026. He's a free agent in 2027. Whether he's playing center or guard, there's, as people will see, the highest paid center of football makes $18 million per year. The guard market is much larger than that. So how you pay a tipman gets thrown all over the place. So I don't want to keep jerkying him around.
Well, Paul, and in addition to that, the salary cap is set up so that all offensive linemen, like the franchise tag doesn't distinguish between a guard and a tackle. They're all
neither does the 5th-year option. Both are in that same world. Correct.
Right. So the other thing you should also think about, like from a team building standpoint, is what positions can you not find in free agency?
Right.
Quarterback's at the top, right?
Yeah.
But then offensive tackle, now the Jets have 2, right?
Yep.
So the Jets are set at offensive tackle, but you can't find good offensive tackles in free agency.
Right.
Very rarely do you find good defensive tackles in free agency either. So there's a reason that, the first several that Anthony did, you're going for the quarterbacks and the defensive tackles. It's tough to find them in free agency. You can find wide receivers in free agency, but it's not usually the wide receiver ones.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need that alpha in the wide receiver room, you probably need to draft it because you're not going to be able to acquire it. But when it comes to guard, you can find guards by trade in free agency. You can find corners by trade in free agency relatively easily. Now, you can also easily draft corners late in the draft as well. But from a team building standpoint, recognize what does not hit free agency. And that's a lot of, like, when I look at, if I'm analyzing somebody's draft, are they drafting the offensive tackles late or early? Because if you draft them late, they're probably not going to be great players immediately. Mm-hmm. But you need to address the position because you're not going to find them anywhere else. You have to grow your own.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll say from the Jets' perspective too, like Josh Myers is a perfectly fine center.
Serviceable.
Option.
He's serviceable.
So yeah, I would have no problem if the starting 5 on the offensive line next year is Fashanu, Simpson, Myers, Tippmann, Membu.
Yeah,
fine. I got no qualms, and then you get like a swing tackle or depth, offensive line player on one of the day 3 picks. Like totally reasonable plan to have for the Jets. But if you want that upgrade and there's a player you like at either 33 or 44, I don't think that's unreasonable either. Of the players Jim mentioned before, I think the only one that I would consider personally is Emmanuel Pregnon. We don't have to take him here because I actually have another position I'd address instead, or another player I should say that I'd get. But it's an option. It's an option.
Okay.
So
yeah. What do you want to do with 33?
So I was gonna say we're looking at Chris Bell, the wide receiver from Louisville here. And I think he is a really good player. He's the wide receiver from Louisville. He's 6'2", 225. So he is built like
nice.
A pretty swole wide receiver. He's built like a good player, but he moves like a player that is 20, 30 pounds lighter than he is. He's electric in the open field. He probably runs a 4.4, maybe even cracks like high 4.3s. But my guess is he's like a low 4.4 guy. But again, for 225 pounds, like that's great. He can make so many plays after the catch with both just his natural speed, his ability to change direction, his ability to also be physical because he is a 6'2", 225-pound receiver. Not afraid to initiate contact and can break tackles when he has the ball in his hands. Jets fans are probably going to be a little scarred by the Malachi Corley experience. But I think Chris Bell is a better football player than Malachi Corley was. And full transparency, I liked Malachi Corley and I thought it was a good pick at the time, but I do think Chris Bell is a better player. The one issue with Chris Bell also is he did tear his ACL this year. So he is going to, he's going through a recovery process. Whether or not he's ready for camp is probably a question. But the player, again, when you throw on the tape of Louisville when he was on the field, they ran that offense basically through him and their running back, Isaac Brown, who's a great player, not in this class. But those were like the two difference makers. And Bell was easily their best pass-catching option. Yeah. So getting him along with Garrett, who, is not known as that yak kind of receiver, like obviously a great receiver, but Chris Bell can be that after the catch wide receiver 2 option that can thrive like in the quick game.
And the probability that Chris Bell would have been at pick 33 if healthy is really low. Right.
Interesting. Okay.
He was probably going to be going higher. Now, I think yesterday when we were doing, I said he would have gone top 20. Anthony's like, maybe top 25. But he would have been, the type of receiver that any of the playoff teams would love.
Yep.
Right. So, think of just any of the teams that are playing now. He's a big guy. He can play the X. You can move him around a little bit. So he's not a receiver. Some receivers you have to keep off the line. Like Corley can't play X. You got to keep him off the line, so that pushes him down the draft board. Chris Bell, you could use him in a lot of different ways in the wide receiver room. So getting him at 33 would be reasonable value, right? And so that's about
a discount price. Okay.
Right, because Revel went round 2 last year to Dallas.
Correct.
And he had a really similar injury at a really similar time of year.
Yep.
Right? It's a similar analogy. So Bell's going to be going probably somewhere in round 2. It's just difficult to see where. Anthony, what do you want to do at 44 here?
Sorry, just remind me who did we take? Oh, Bain, was it Bain McCoy?
Bain McCoy Bell.
Okay. So look,
you got the killer bees here, but wait, no, McCoy doesn't have a B in it. Never mind.
No. We could take another B and be the Better Business Bureau if we want. No, look, I think double dipping on pass catcher is an option. And I like Adonai Mitchell. But I think the Jets wide receiver room is pretty weak. Garrett's great, but he's also been injured. Adonai Mitchell is good, but we're still trying to see if he can reach his potential. And then after that, what are we talking about? So I think in this scenario where we've decided. We've punted on quarterback. We've gone a different direction, whether it's a free agent Malik Willis or trade for Kyler or trade for Tua or whatever. Again, try to build up the offense around whoever is throwing the football. So we can actually go back to the wide receiver board, and we can talk about. You know what? If you're going to give me the platform. I'm going to talk about my personal favorite wide receiver that no one else would take in the spot, but
oh wow,
I'll do it, and I'll give my defense, and we'll get roasted in the comments, and that's fine. But I think Bryce Lance is a hell of an option. And, I talked about Chris Bell, who, has that bigger build, but kind of to what Jim was saying, like he can operate inside, outside. He can be that X, but he can also play in the slot and can work, in the quick game after the catch, things like that. Bryce Lance is a tried and true X wide receiver. And would probably sort of step on Adonai Mitchell, I guess, in this scenario. But has 4.4 speed in a 6'3", 209-pound frame. Bryce Lance, wide receiver at North Dakota State. I don't know if I said that. But he is a true X receiver, can get down the field and make some awesome contested catches. His body control, particularly along the sideline, is fantastic. Really strong hands. Again, is a bigger receiver, so can win those 50-50 balls. But if you'll remember Christian Watson, also from North Dakota State, when he came out a couple years ago, the different things he could do, and still does with the Packers, where they'll give him the ball on jet sweeps and sort of like on screen passes and let him make plays after the catch. He's able to do that. And I think, too, you kind of have to think and go back to what Tanner Engstrom was doing in Detroit, where Jamison Williams was the ultimate example, where just get the ball in his hands and let him just burn people with his speed. But they love doing it with Amon-Ra. They love doing it even with like Sam Laporta, where just like they like to create these mismatches and then take advantage and then let the athletes make the plays down the field. The Jets can kind of just really fill out their wide receiver, pass catcher, rooms, and just go all in. And again, you're taking a quarterback in 27 in that scenario, but whoever that is would be more than set up for success with an offensive line already in place, and then just wide receivers and pass catchers out the wazoo.
Okay, so Anthony, I've started the next mock draft, so we're in the sixth one. I took Moore and Sadiq in round 1. And the simulator made sure that you were sniped. So Halsey, Cooper, Johnson, Thieneman, Bell were sniped. Those were guys you like. Is there anybody else you still like for pick 33?
So I think this is a good time we could talk about linebacker.
Yes,
which is an underrated, very, very weak position on the Jets right now.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe it's not even underrated, honestly. But I think you're losing Quincy more likely than not.
Definitely.
And then after that, what do we got? Kiko Mauanoa, who was an underwhelming day 3 pick. There's really nobody at the linebacking core that I'm like, yeah, he's solid.
Right, Sherwood could get traded. The other thing
that was the other one. I don't think
is we don't have a defensive coordinator yet, so that hire's coming in. Did some of these guys play bad last year because we had a shitty defensive coordinator, or because maybe that the players weren't what we thought they were? So there's questions to be had there at the middle of the Jets defense, no question.
Absolutely, and I think I don't. Maybe I'm in the minority. I don't think Steve Wilkes is a bad defensive coordinator. I think he and Aaron Glenn had fundamental just disagreements on the kind of defense that they wanted to run and the Jets would operate. And I think that led to, because it's just a lot of just like coaching mistakes and busted coverages and missed tackles and like it just felt like a disjointed operation to me. And I mean, we've seen Steve Wilkes have success as a defensive coordinator. So and I can't speak to their dynamic, specifically, but that's what it felt like to me. So I'm hopeful that Aaron Glenn can get somebody in the building that they can work together and again, just get a freaking interception really is just my bar at this point. But so looking at linebacker here, 2 names jump out to me. C.J. Allen, the linebacker from Georgia, and Josiah Trotter, the linebacker from Missouri. Both of them are downfield, run stopping, just hard-nosed tackling linebackers, which the Jets, I think, need that. Again, the run defense really suffered, and obviously losing Quinnen was a big part of that, but I think getting one of those two guys will help that a lot. So for this, we can take C.J. Allen, the linebacker from Georgia. He is, I think, again, like, just one of the best when it comes to identifying plays as they happen, attacking downfield, and making the tackle. And as simple as that sounds, like, the Jets need that kind of player at the second level. They really do not have that long term right now. So I think C.J. Allen is a great fit in that regard. He reminds me of, like, not quite as good, but very similar skill set, Roquan Smith, who was also a Georgia Bulldog, but that kind of vein of linebacker. And again, we'll see who the D coordinator winds up being. But I think C.J. Allen is a just plug and play starter. You'll find a role for him regardless of who it is.
Yep. And I think you'll see C.J. Allen going in round 1 in a lot of mocks. So picking him at 33, to me, very reasonable. At pick 44, what are you thinking, Anthony?
So 44, remind me, who have we taken? This is the problem. Not a problem, but like one of the things you run into when you do this is you have to remember who you've taken in this specific second round challenge. I've drafted like 20-something players.
More Lemon Allen. So you're probably looking defense. Yeah. Kristen Miller is the only defensive tackle available. Your corner board is Neal, Cisse, Lee, Davis. Your safety board is Ramsey, McNeil Warren, and maybe Genesis Smith.
Yeah, so all good options, honestly. I kind of actually don't hate how this fell, because there's a couple players I'd be okay with. We can go safety again. And I think for Jets fans, one thing to sort of realize as we go through this process is the feeling for me, and I think a lot of people, is linebacker and safety, which are obviously both positions of need, these are like two of the strongest groups at those positions that we've had in years. For the past couple of years, I think linebacker and safety have kind of been weak points in the past couple draft cycles. This is the year. If you need one, get one. There's a lot of good players. So for safety here, we can actually take Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I'll take him from Toledo to give some Toledo love. This is the annual Toledo player that somehow gets drafted in the top, or the first 2 days, I should say. Toledo just has a way of churning out great football players. But checks the boxes physically, 6'2", 200 pounds. He's got the just natural athleticism and size in run support, solid tackler. I think he's athletic enough to where I see upside as a cover safety. You're not going to play him as a single high guy, like kind of what we were talking about with Thieneman before. But I think he's skilled enough that you could have him operate as sort of like that half field safety in the cover 2 look. But you'll primarily want him playing, again, like in the box, athletic enough to cover like tight ends. But he's going to be, again, another enforcer in the run game, and really just make a difference there as a solid tackler and a solid downhill presence. So 2 players, Allen and McNeil Warren, I'd be really excited about. It's just like physical tone setting kind of defensive players.
That's well said.
Okay, so I've done the round 1 of the 7th mock. I gave you Mendoza and Boston in round 1. And the simulator makes sure that Halsey, Cooper, Chris Johnson, Dylan Thieneman, Chris Bell, C.J. Allen, they're all off the board for the Jets. What do they do, Anthony?
So, I mean, again, I think you're staring at that defensive tackle position. I think it's just such a big need with Quinnen gone. We did already take Caleb Banks. Again, I mean, I would love Caleb. Caleb Banks at 33, in my opinion, would be sick. So we could have taken him.
All right.
I was also going to shout out Caden McDonald because I do think he would also be a solid option at that 33 spot. The Caden McDonald's a defensive tackle from Ohio State.
I've seen him in a few 16 Jets mock drafts early from whether it's Jordan Reed or Connor Rogers or some of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, he is definitely getting that top 20 love from some people, and I'm like, if the Jets were picking 26 instead of 16, I'd say yeah. 16 is like a touch high for me, but I mean, he's a hard-nosed, just strong as an ox defensive tackle in the run game. He moves people, and not even moves people, like, off the line of scrimmage, he just jolts so much power. Like, you will see offensive linemen like stagger, like off that first initial contact that they make with him. So he is again, I've mentioned several times that the Jets need to improve their run defense on the interior. Caden McDonald would absolutely do that. So him or Banks, I'd be really thrilled getting either one at 33.
So then at 44, if you've done Mendoza, Boston, Banks, where are you looking at the board?
I think corner / safety is the option. Corner here, this is one of the first times, if not the first time, we've had Keith Abney as an option. And this is actually somebody I think Jets fans should know. I think he is a very, very possible day 2 corner option if that's the direction that the Jets wind up going. Keith Abney, the coolest thing about Keith Abney is he is a former child prodigy as an inline skater, which is like when it's like that indoor, like not like roller derby, like it's actually skating, but like that thing, if you can imagine it, where you're like inside and you're going around like the track in a circle.
Yeah, music and motion. I used to do that when I was a kid. Sure.
Yes, yeah. I didn't have the physical ability to because of my size and lack of
I read that on your draft
but,
profile. I read that on your draft profile. I saw that.
Yeah. But yeah. So no, Abney is and it shows. I think where that is actually relevant and translates is he's got really good footwork. You see it, his back pedal and his ability to flip his hips and stay with you in man coverage. He's really good at that. He also has the length that you want. He's, I think, 6'2", like 198. So he's got that, that corner build that you look for. The Jets are, with Aaron Glenn, one of those teams that likes to play man coverage a lot more than most other teams. So Abney can step in and I think do that at a high level. And I was a fan of Azareye'h Thomas when the Jets took him last year in the 3rd round. I think those two guys are really good potential man cover corners that like you can build your future secondary around going forward. All right, who did you take for me here?
So I took Fernando Mendoza and TJ Parker, and we haven't talked about TJ Parker yet. So you want to talk about the edge from Clemson? Sure,
yeah. So look, if you were looking at mock drafts like any of us sickos back in like August, TJ Parker was the top 10. It was basically in everybody's top 10 in August. He was one of the most hyped up edge players coming into the year. And him, along with pretty much all of Clemson, had a very lackluster and disappointing season. And that's obviously not all his fault, but he didn't produce to the level that I think he and other people, including myself, were hoping for. But he still gives you that power off the edge. I think I mentioned like Jared Verse before. He's that kind of edge player where he's not going to win with elite quickness and bend, on the edge and be able to just like kind of swoop around guys. He is that, I will put my hands in your chest and drive you backward kind of player. You'll see him operate with a solid swipe moves and be able to rip offensive tackles. Again, just that power that he can get in his hands to be able to fight off blockers. That's his game, and that's how he wins. And I do think Aaron Glenn is going to want more power at his edge spots. I think that is something to look out for this offseason, whether it's in the draft or free agency. So I think TJ Parker fits what the Jets would be looking for on the edge. For me, I don't think he quite has shown the potential that we thought he would have in the summer, and that would, I think, warrant a top 16 pick. There's other edges that I would hope would fall to the Jets if they're going to take an edge at 16. So for me, Parker would be a 33 or 44 option more than a 16 option, but a good player that I think could make a difference in the Jets defense.
Okay, so we're at pick 33, and just to remind everybody, AJ Halsey is off the board, Omar Cooper Jr. is off the board, Chris Johnson is, Dylan Thieneman is, Chris Bell is, CJ Allen is, Caleb Banks are. All the guys that you took in earlier mock drafts, the Draft Professor Simulator makes sure that they're off the board. So you have been sniped. But you have Casey Concepcion and Viga Ione have now dropped to pick 33.
Jim, what number mock are we on?
This is 8. We've got 2 more to go.
Okay. I do think, and Paul, obviously, if you have any ideas for a potential pick, please feel free to jump in. Yeah. I was going to say we potentially should do for the next one, we should do a wide receiver at 2 world.
Yes, I agree.
Because I think that's a world, and it gives us a chance to talk about a wide receiver that I think fans will want to know about, but we haven't talked about yet. We'll worry about that in a bit. All right, wait, sorry. Who did I take? So, I took Parker and Mendoza.
So this is Mendoza Parker.
Yeah, okay. I've said wide receiver. There's a couple of names here we haven't talked about yet. Kevin, aka Casey Concepcion. If you're interested in the, explosive, fast, just speed demons that can burn basically any corner they go against, Concepcion's your guy. We could take him here at 33. I'll talk about him a bit. Look, there's a sort of stigma with these, undersized speed receivers that go early. The John Ross example, I think, will come to a lot of people's minds, where he went, 9th or 10th to the Bengals and then fizzled out within a couple years. But Concepcion, has that deep speed and that ability to stretch the field vertically, which the Jets so desperately need in their offense. But he also has actual legit receiving chops. He can run routes well at a high level and can get open, again, in the quick game and be able to win over the middle of the field and can separate from defenders because he's not just fast, but also understands actual wide receiver technique. Now, the obvious downside is he is an undersized receiver, and so he's going to struggle against bigger, stronger NFL corners. And if those corners can also match him, athletically, that's going to be a problem. But he's always going to have, I would be stunned if he doesn't run anything lower than a 4.3 at the 40-yard dash. He's fast, but again, has those receiving chops to where he's not just going to be a, run a go route, hope you get open, and hope that our quarterback finds you. He'll get open. He can integrate himself in the offense and be that, the Robin to Garrett's Batman, and also can operate with Adonai Mitchell in 3 wide receiver sets. All 3 of those players offer you different things and can complement each other well. So So for me, Concepcion at 33, I think is a really solid pick for the Jets if that's how it falls.
Okay. And then at pick 44, Abney has been sniped. Warren is off the board. Bryce Lance is off the board. Dominique Orange, Oscar Delp, D'Angelo Pons already picked. Lee Hunter already picked. So all the guys that you like have been taken before your pick. What do you do?
So one of the scenarios and you know, because this is kind of what you do when you run through all these fanatic challenges.
What it's all about.
Is there's endless chances, especially when you have 4 top 50 picks. You know, there's so many different routes you could go. So one of the things that I would consider happening, and again, free agency will matter too, but I think a defensive line double dip is an option.
For sure.
You know, we've taken Parker obviously in this scenario, but I think there's several good defensive tackles. For me, this is actually a little thinner of a defensive tackle board than I would have expected, but Kristen Miller is my pick here. And where a lot of the defensive tackles we've talked about have been kind of the big run stuffing, you know, physical guys. Kristen Miller's definitely more of that traditional 3-tech kind of guy. I think he's like 305 pounds, which is obviously still, you know, perfectly fine for the position, but he's not like 320, 330. But he's got more, I think, pass rush chops than the other interior players that we've talked about. He can win with just a super quick first step for a 300-pound man. He gets off the line of scrimmage so well. He can be that guy that can explode into the backfield and get sacks or at least just pressures on opposing quarterbacks. He, as you would expect, gives up a little more in the run game than I think some of the other guys we've talked about. But if the Jets want to get that true interior pass rush guy, Kristen Miller is someone that they're going to look at.
And I love that. I love that thought to double dip. Yeah, go ahead.
No, so Anthony, I love how you're explaining it. Do you want to talk about Carnell Tate at 2 now?
Yep. So look, wide receiver at 2 is going to raise eyebrows. I'm sure of it. But if there is a wide receiver that I would argue could warrant this pick, it would be Carnell Tate. He's my wide receiver 1. I think when it comes to, he's got the size at 6'3", 191. He's got the understanding of how to play the wide receiver position. I don't need to get into the unbelievable coaching job that Ohio State has done with wide receivers in the past, you know, half decade or so.
And now he's gone. Heartline, right? What did he take? A USF job or something?
He's now at South Florida, right? Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I'm sure Ohio State will be okay, but like, you know, that Brian Hartline's done an unbelievable job,
of course,
producing, you know, taking elite athletes and players from high school and turning them into like just legit NFL players, 100%. So Carnell Tate fits in that role, and you know, it's going to be weird to think about somebody who was never the best wide receiver on his own team being a 2nd overall pick, and now going to a team that he's not going to be the best wide receiver on the team.
Right.
But I think, again, 6, he's got the size, his ability to make catches, and not just like make catches because like he's got good hands, but like his ability, like, you know, running down the field and then look last second over his shoulder, get his hands up, make the catch. Like that mental side of making plays downfield. And also, you know, is a bigger receiver, not an elite speed guy, but has the speed, I think, to get down the field vertically and stretch the field. He can win at all 3 levels of the field, I think, and can win also in a variety of ways. I think he is a great football player that deserves to go potentially top 5. You know, again, for the Jets at 2, maybe, but I love Carnell Tate. I think he's a hell of a player.
So, Anthony, that was an awesome explanation. David Bailey dropped to 16. This is the first time I've seen him drop that far. You want to talk?
Is this possible? Please.
You know what? I don't know if it's possible, but
Yeah.
if it is in this scenario, we run that pick to the podium. David Bailey, I'll make it quick, but man, just go watch. Literally, just watch him all year. A dominant force as a pass rusher. Wins with speed, wins with power, wins with hands, wins with just ability to just run through guys. He's everything he is an elite pass rush prospect, and I don't throw that around a lot. There'll be questions about the upside as a run defender, but if you had Will McDonald and David Bailey, just ears pinned back, get after the quarterback, it would be a nightmare for a lot of offensive tackle duos. So here at 33 too, I suppose we should give this some potential leeway if it could happen. But Ty Simpson is the day 2 quarterback option. So we could take him at 33 and have that conversation here quickly. But
we have someone in our comment section for months. Their YouTube handle has been Tank for Ty. So they've been waiting for you to do this your entire life, Anthony.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sorry because I'm probably not going to be as excited about it as Tank for Ty. But look, if you get him on day 2, I actually think that I'm good with that.
That's more understandable.
Because I think he is a tried and true day 2 quarterback prospect. I think when he was talked about as QB1 potential, I was very let's pump the brakes a bit. But here at day 2, look, he's shown the growth and the acumen that it takes to play the quarterback position at a high level. And I know he very much fell off towards the back half of the year and really struggled in some big games. But if you watch that first half of the year, he played exceptionally well, being able to get outside the pocket, make throws downfield, keep his eyes downfield, being able to read defenses at such an incredibly high level. I worry about just the physical upside as well a little bit, but I don't think it's a huge problem. Again, as a day 2 quarterback option where there's another veteran in the room that can be the starter, and then maybe turn Ty Simpson into something as a future guy, as a future long-term starter. I think that's a very feasible scenario.
Fair enough.
So
ahead.
Anthony, we're at the pick 44, and the simulator makes sure that Hunter, Pons, Delp, Orange, Lance, McNeil Warren, Abney, and Miller were off the board before your pick.
Yeah. So one more time, quick. Who did I take? I've taken Simpson.
You've taken Tate, Bailey, and Simpson.
Tate. Right. Okay. All right. So yeah, we could dip back into defense. We could get a secondary pick. I'm looking quick here. Yeah, Kamari Ramsey is a nice pick here. The guy that could have declared last year, Kamari Ramsey, the safety from USC, could have declared last year and probably contended for a top 50 pick in a weaker safety group. But he is a true, he's a coverage safety, primarily will operate on the back end of the defense. Could even be a nickel corner, I think, in some defensive looks. But he's got good instincts out there, good ability to travel with receivers and the ball skills to make plays on, to create turnovers and incompletions. He's a solid cover option, potentially to pair with a Malachi Moore if they see him as a long-term starting safety.
Okay. And love that on Ramsey. So Ramsey is a person I've seen frequently mocked in the top 50. So 3 safeties, I want to point out to everybody watching, 3 safeties in the top 50.
Mm-hmm.
And we might see that, 3 would be high, and we might see 5. Like Anthony's already spoke about 4 safeties. We haven't done Caleb Downs, so that would be the 5th. Anthony, in this mock, I did Arvell Reese at 2. You want to talk about him for a second?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be the riser of the year, right? Yeah, guy that I don't think anybody was talking about, or at least I should say, very few people were talking about coming into the year, but completely just burst on the scene as a legit edge linebacker hybrid. Playing at Ohio State, he's 6'4", 243, and it's really the Micah Parsons comparison is going to show up as a guy who was a linebacker, converted to edge, and has now been a huge difference maker, obviously, in the NFL. That's the path that you would hope Arvell Reese could follow. But he is so strong for 240 pounds. He sets a strong edge. He is still very much developing as a pass rusher, but you see the raw tools and athletic ability to wreak havoc along the edge. Also can provide that ability as an off-ball linebacker to pursue runners and make tackles in the open field. Does that really well. As if you're playing Arvell Reese along the line of scrimmage in some capacity, he tends to find his way to the football and make a difference. And so, that's why he's being talked about so highly as a likely, I would say, top 10 pick.
All right, we're about to be wrapping this up here. So before we wrap up the show, so Jim, go ahead, take us through the end here before we give our final goodbyes with draft chatter here.
So let's do Sadiq.
Sure.
At 16, and this will be your final second round, Anthony.
All right.
And the simulator will make sure that everybody that you've picked got sniped before your pick, right? So Simpson, Casey Concepcion, Banks, Allen, Bell, Thieneman, Johnson, Cooper, Hulsey, all of the players that you have taken at 33 are not available.
Which is so fun. So yeah, I mean, we could do the Jeremiah Love thing again. If we want to speed it up for time, we could play that scenario. Listen, you get RB1 and tight end 1 in the same draft class. Maybe not the biggest needs, but that's, I think still pretty interesting scenario. And then
at 44, Ramsey is off the board. Christian Miller is off the board. Keith Abney is off the board. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, Bryce Lance, Dominique Orange, Oscar Delp, D'Angelo Pons, Lee Hunter. All the players that you liked at 44 are off the board. Is there a player you still like to finish this out?
We can let's do Colton Hood, the corner from Tennessee there. He feels like another player that I think could potentially catch eyes. Kind of had to fill in at Tennessee. Jermod McCoy, who we mentioned before, but he was out all year with an injury. So Colton Hood kind of had to step into that corner one role, and I think did a good job. He's got the size that you want. I think he does a lot of, kind of similar to Jermod McCoy, like his ability to travel downfield and find the football when it's in the air. I think he does that at a high level. Another guy that can also create turnovers as well. At 44, another interesting corner option for the Jets for sure.
Wow. Well, this was an exceptional draft conversation. Always, we did like a mock of this last night and said, here's about what we think it's going to happen. And then 2.5 hours later, baby, booyah, nearly 700 people in the room. So I know both of you guys have to go, and I've got another live show coming up in less than an hour, so I got to go too. But I want to thank both you, Jim, and Anthony. And for people that may have been confused through this process or anything, my point of this and my goal of this, as this is our second draft show that we've done since the end of the Jet season, is an introduction to prospects Anthony and Jim know these guys like nobody's business, but a lot of the fans, I would assume, in our audience, there is a couple of diehard draft fans that have known these guys for a long time. A lot of the people do not know them. So they want to know the names that could be possible at 2, 16, 33, 44. And I think we certainly accomplished that of talking through a lot of different prospect scenarios and everything else. So really appreciate everyone that was with us throughout this entire process. And before each of you guys go, I want you to plug the draft professors. You guys were able to, flex all the draft prospects and insights and expertise both of you have available. We'll start off with you, Jim. You're the godfather here of this entire process with all your draft professor children, teachers, adjuncts. I'm not sure the proper terminology, but nonetheless, Jim, thank you, and please promote everything so we could guide some of these 700 people over to draftprofessor.com.
Yeah. So Draft Professor, the simulator is a little bit different because every team gets their own player board. So everything we just did for the Jets, anybody that comes in and drafts for the other 31 teams is going to be mock drafting against Anthony's picks. Mm-hmm. So now you're mock drafting against other people that are trying to get themselves the best mock draft. Where do they have the people valued? Not everybody values the players the same way. Sure. So, for example, Anthony might be lower on Elijah Surratt, whereas there's other teams that are really high on Elijah Surratt. So,
or, for example, Anthony hates Jeremiah Love and his entire family, and some other people like him. Yeah, right.
Yep.
Sure.
100%.
Yep. So, from that standpoint, it's just a slightly different experience. It's a different kind of algorithm. It's not based upon team needs. It's based upon end user behavior. So that's who we are, Draft Professor. We podcast every day, 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern. We have group mock drafts every Friday night. You can see Anthony podcast with us once a week. I believe that's going to be Sunday nights going forward. We have other people coming on the channel like Devin Jackson, who you may know is a larger name in the draft community. Ian Cummings podcast with us.
Ah, yes.
James Foster, Sam Teets, and the list goes on. But Draft Professor is pretty much a who's who of, we'll just say, the online draft community. And we podcast with each other once a day. So
beautiful. And Anthony, please give an introduction for yourself, my fellow Jets brethren in arms here on the process, and appreciated you popping your cherry here on Boy Green Daily, baby. Beautiful. Anthony, please, some promotion, some plugs, and things of that nature.
Yeah, everybody remembers their first, right? No, this is so I mean, I've been with Jim now for a little over a year doing Draft Professor podcasts. You can, I think my Substack link is down below.
It is in the YouTube description, correct?
In the YouTube description. Thank you for that.
Yes, of course.
And so, yeah, you can, I write all sorts of NFL and NFL draft and college football related content there. So you can check that out. On X, I'm constantly posting about draft players and draft news and draft decisions and all that. So you can certainly find me on X, at my Substack, and on the Draft Professor podcast. And this was a fun time. It's definitely a challenging, but I suppose that is what a fanatic challenge ought to be. So this was a good time.
And Anthony, just why I have you full screen, because of course we want to see that handsome mug of yours, but also that handle underneath your name. That is your Twitter handle, correct?
Correct. Yes, at Anthony_Russo 97. That is my X handle, Twitter, whatever you call it. I don't care. But
I don't know. Yeah,
but yes, you can find me there. That's where I'm at. So.
Yeah, so I want to give a quick shout out to the 700 people in the room live. We also are streaming this. This podcast will be available in the audio only form. So Jim, Anthony, and everybody, we're all signing off here. Thank you guys so much, Draft Professors, for making us smarter. And that's a difficult challenge, so appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Paul.
We'll see you.